Chapter 1809. Are you talking about the three gods behind you? Since they're here, why are they hiding and not daring to show themselves? And the Mizar Divine Lord, why is he nowhere to be seen? Su Fong raised the corner of his mouth, revealing a mocking and disdainful expression. With Su Fong's current strength, coupled with his great perfection ability and the life-shrinking technique, how could he not sense the three Liao brothers hiding in the void? With three gods appearing at once and the Mizar Divine Lord still not showing himself, Su Fong looked very disdainful on the surface, but he was actually very vigilant in his heart. While devouring the world origin of the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect, he activated his great perfection ability and the life-shrinking technique to prepare for the upcoming battle. To be able to discover the existence of my brothers, you're quite extraordinary, you aunt. But it's more interesting to kill you like this. I'll cut off the head of a peerless genius of your world and make it into a decoration to hang in my cave residence. Boss Liao's arrogant and incomparably cold voice suddenly sounded. Swish! A dark arrow darted over from 100,000 miles away. This arrow had black arrow feathers and a mysterious divine pattern mark flashed on the arrow shaft, exuding the aura of spatial laws. The arrow was unbelievably fast. Su Fong's great perfection ability had just captured its existence when it appeared in front of Su Fong in an instant, with a terrifying aura that could pierce through heaven and earth, about to pierce Su Fong's heart. Puff! Su Fong had no time to operate his vital qi, activate his Dao weapon, or inner world before the arrow shot into his body. Fortunately, Su Fong's Kunwa true body automatically erupted with power at the moment of great danger. A thick and majestic power quickly filled every corner of his body, causing his body to become as hard as rock in an instant. At the same time, the earth element power quickly condensed a layer of tough defense on the surface of his body. In addition, there was a thick and heavy force like the earth, which caused the arrow to sink slightly. Chi! The arrow almost missed Su Fong's heart. It pierced through Su Fong's heart and came out from his back, causing blood to spurt out. Only then did the arrow run out of energy and disappear into nothingness. This arrow, it pierced through Su Fong's flesh fetus divine armor, earth elemental defense, and the blood vessels of the Black Lotus true body. One could only imagine how astonishing the penetrative power of this arrow was. If it wasn't for the Kunwa real body, Su Fong's heart would be pierced by this arrow. Even if he didn't die, his vitality would be greatly damaged, and it would be very difficult for him to recover his physical body in a short time. The arrow's damage was not limited to that. Chi! The arrow left a tyrannical and sharp arrow light in Su Fong's body, wantonly destroying his flesh, blood, meridians, and bones. What a terrifying arrow! Su Fong was aghast and shocked. He immediately activated the power of Yin and Yang to suppress and wear down the power of the arrow. At the same time, he activated his Black Lotus true body, Blood Transformation true body, and Dragon Subduing true body to quickly recover from the arrows and the arrow lights left in his body. In the time of 3 breaths, Su Fong's injuries were completely healed. However, Su Fong did not heal the wounds on his body. He looked like he was seriously injured. Integrate with the Heaven's Mandate Hao Tsang sect's world origin as soon as possible. Su Fong frantically activated the World Tree to devour the Heaven's Mandate Hao Tsang sect's world origin. He also called Gue to his side and absorbed her into his body. Su Fong, let's see how long you can be arrogant under the divine arrow of a God realm expert. Seeing that Su Fong was seriously injured, the first Supreme Elder was very proud and laughed loudly. Liao Lao broke through the air from 100,000 miles away and said in surprise, "He can actually take an arrow from me. This kid is really something. No wonder he can even kill a god from a celestial world." Lao Lao, you haven't killed anyone for a long time. Why are your hands so soft? You can't even kill an ant from a celestial world. The second brother of the Liao family's 3 brothers spoke in a gloomy voice from the void and appeared 100,000 miles to the southeast. After that, Liao Lao Lao put his palms together and then suddenly separated them. Chi, chi, chi. Then, arrows broke through the air. Some of the arrows fell from the sky like meteors, some shot from under Su Fang's feet, and countless green arrow shadows suddenly shot from Su Fang's surroundings. In an instant, Su Fang was surrounded by a rain of arrows and was about to be torn to pieces. Want to kill me, Su Fang? It's not that easy. Su Fang was injured by Liao Lao Lao's first arrow and was already on high alert. How could he let Liao Lao Lao have his way again? Kunwu true body. A majestic and heavy gravitational force caused the countless arrows to abruptly sink and deviate slightly from their course. Fire Cloud Emperor Physique. Su Fang activated the Fire Cloud Emperor Physique, and at the same time released the 9 suns celestial fire. The fire elemental divine power swept out and burned the arrows to ashes. Then, Su Fang used the heaven's mandate Haotsong Sek's world origin to unleash his world divine might, creating a barrier around him that blocked all of the arrows. However, Su Fang seemed to have exhausted all his strength. His injuries worsened, and blood gushed out from his wounds like a fountain. He seemed to be on the verge of collapse and could not hold on for much longer. Su Fang gritted his teeth and abandoned the world's origin. It turned back into starlight and flew into the depths of the celestial land of destiny. Su Fang unleashed the wings of Fire Cloud. Like a 7-colored divine phoenix spreading its wings, he drew a trail of flames in the air and fled into the distance. However, it was obvious that his injuries were not light. He was swaying as if he would fall at any moment. This person is already an arrow at the end of its flight. Capture him alive. Boss Liao shouted coldly. First brother, second brother, the merit of capturing this brat alive belongs to me. A blurry figure emerged from the void. He let out a smug grin and pounced straight at Su Fang. This person was like a strange shadow. It was almost impossible to see his figure. He was as fast as the wind. In the blink of an eye, he was 1,000 miles away from Su Fang. Then, he flicked his finger and shot out a black arrow. Whoosh! The arrow drew a strange arc in the air and appeared behind Su Fang in the blink of an eye. This was not an arrow. It was clearly a black venomous snake. It was 10 feet long and had a pair of cicada-like wings. It had sharp and ferocious fangs. Buzz, the venomous snake's wings flapped fiercely as its body slithered. Like a bolt of black lightning, it penetrated the fire cloud around Su Fang and shot into the middle of Su Fang's back. Its teeth bit into Su Fang's flesh and blood, and the poison quickly seeped into his body. The fire cloud wings behind Su Fang suddenly collapsed. His body turned black and black blood flowed out of his 7 orifices. His body was on the verge of collapse, and it was difficult for him to maintain his flying state. Even the realm lord of a small realm in the god realm would lose a layer of skin after being hit by my shadow snake arrow. How can a cultivator from a large realm like you not die? The shadow appeared beside Su Fang and quickly became real. It was the 3rd brother of the Liao brothers. In the distance, the 1st and 2nd brothers of the Liao family walked out of the void. They looked at Su Fang, who had been suppressed from afar, and sneered disdainfully. They didn't expect to capture Su Fang so easily. Let's see how you die this time. First Supreme Elder couldn't help but laugh loudly. I like to see people howling in pain after being hit by the shadow snake arrow. Unfortunately, someone wants to capture you alive. 3rd brother Liao grinned and raised his hand to recall the venomous snake biting Su Fang's back. Who knew that the venomous snake would struggle crazily to leave Su Fang's body and firmly stick to Su Fang's back, unable to break free. Furthermore, the venomous snake's body rapidly shriveled up. Its venom and blood were completely devoured. In the end, it turned into a piece of snake skin. 3rd brother Liao looked at Su Fang in disbelief. You're not afraid of my shadow arrow snake's poison? Idiot! Su Fang smiled coldly. Gui Gui's devouring ability was invincible. The more poisonous it was, the more he liked it. This shadow arrow snake's poison was indeed very powerful, even more so than Gui Gui's. However, in addition to devouring and dissolving poison, Gui Gui also had the yellow spring blood sea's ability to devour blood. In the blink of an eye, the venom and blood of the shadow arrow snake were all devoured, and then the venom was slowly digested in Su Fang's body. Not good. Third brother Liao realized that something was wrong and turned around to escape into the void. Su Fang pretended to be seriously injured and didn't hesitate to be bitten by the venomous snake. His purpose was to lead Gui Gui closer, so how could he let him escape so easily? Boom! Su Fang urged his inner world and blasted out a punch. A terrifying aura of the operation of the heavenly Tao and the flow of the galaxy slammed into the void, causing the space to tremble and shatter. Third brother Liao, who had just escaped into the void, staggered and spat out a mouthful of blood. Suppress! The inner world's divine power instantly covered third brother Liao. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, lightning, and 6 natural energies roared and the heavenly Tao operated. The terrifying power of the world hit third brother Liao's body. Third brother Liao spat out blood again and again. His body was shattered layer by layer, and he soon fell into a seriously injured state. Su Fang withdrew his inner world's divine power and flashed to third brother Liao's side. He reached out and pressed his hand on third brother Liao's head. He only needed to use his mind to urge his power to blast his head into pieces. Such an amazing reversal stunned the 2 brothers of the Liao family, who were watching a good show in the distance. Immediately, the Liao brothers roared, "How dare you hurt third brother Liao? I will turn you into ashes. Do you think I dare?" Su Fang showed a cold smile and slightly urged a sword chi to penetrate third brother Liao's head from the top of his head. Third brother Liao screamed as blood flowed out of his 7 orifices. The 2 brothers of the Liao family were shocked and angry. They were indeed the bandits of the myriad worlds. Their brother fell into the hands of the enemy, but they had no scruples and still desperately rushed toward Su Fang. "Aren't you afraid that I will kill him?" Su Fang frowned. He was also surprised by the Liao brothers' ruthlessness. Third brother Liao grinned. "How can we, the Liao brothers, be easily controlled by others? I have fallen into your hands. If you dare to kill me, they will naturally pull out your tendons and skin you alive to avenge me. You want to use me to threaten them? Dream on. It seems that you are not very useful, but you are not completely useless. At least you can be used as a cultivation material to break through to the true God realm." Chapter 18:10. Shameless brat, how dare you shackle my brother? I'll skin you alive. Boss Liao saw that Su Fang didn't look like he was seriously injured at all. He was clearly luring Liao Laosan to take the bait just now. %8%, 8% read %book, *oin his fury, Boss Liao took out a big bow and used his divine power. His right palm swept across the bowstring, and his 5 fingers played a wonderful rhythm and pattern on the bowstring, containing the supreme law of the Great Tao. Due to the restrictions of the Great Tao of the Great World, it was difficult for the deities from the Great Tao of the Great World to extract the essence of nature and borrow the power of the stars to display the supreme divine power. However, there were exceptions. Deities could use divine tools to communicate with nature and release powerful divine power. Of course, the price of using divine tools was not small. It would consume magic power and divine power. Just like the immortals in the small world, there was no energy that deities could absorb in the great world. Every bit of energy that deities wasted in the great world would be lost, and they couldn't recover it in the great world. Moreover, due to the great power of divine tools, they would also be restricted by the great Tao of the great world. At most, they could only use 70 to 80% of their power. If Su Fang hadn't shackled Liao Laosan and aroused Boss Liao's crazy killing intent, he wouldn't have used the divine tool so easily. Buzz, 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 the bowstring vibrated violently, and the great Tao seemed to be resonating with the vibration of the bowstring. The natural power of heaven and earth quickly condensed into arrows in the sky. There were flaming arrows, lightning arrows, and sharp metal arrows. These arrows appeared in the sky, and there were no less than 100,000 of them. They gathered into a huge black mass, covering the sky and the sun. The most terrifying thing was that these arrows condensed from the energy of heaven and earth weren't disorderly, but arranged in a strange and mysterious way, containing the great Tao of the great Tao. The power of each arrow wasn't very strong, but when the power of 100,000 arrows gathered together, the power could be imagined. How terrifying was the might of a vast array of arrows formed by 100,000 arrows. The sun-opening Divine Lord, who was hiding high up in the sky, couldn't help but feel his scalp go numb when he saw this scene. The strength of this bandit is actually so extraordinary. If I were to face such a powerful attack, I would definitely be severely injured. The only way is to activate a life-saving Tao artifact. Boss Liao, this bandit is too reckless. If he kills Su Fang, how am I going to explain it to the evil god and dissolve the blood-colored rune talisman in my body? It seems that I have no choice but to make a move. The Mizar god monarch was already prepared to make a move to save Su Fang. Tens of thousands of arrows rained down on the Su Fang with a terrifying aura that could destroy everything. It gave people the feeling that the entire world was covered by the rain of arrows. Everything in the world was being torn apart by the arrows. Peek into the mysteries of heaven, break all laws. Facing such a terrifying rain of arrows, Su Fang had nowhere to hide. His eyes suddenly flashed with an ethereal and mysterious light. At this moment, under his gaze, the heavenly Tao had no secrets. Heaven prying eye. To see the opportunity and find the flaw in the enemy's divine ability. Any divine ability would have a flaw. It was impossible for it to be perfect, including the life-shrinking technique, a supreme divine ability. No matter how powerful the rain of arrows released by Boss Liao was, there would still be a flaw. Su Fang activated the heaven-prying eye of the heaven-prying eye in order to find the weakest point in the endless rain of arrows. At this moment, everything in the world was in Su Fang's heart. The rain of arrows rained down. Break. Su Fang flipped his hand and shot out a flying sword. This was a very ordinary top-grade flying sword, and did not have any fierce aura. The Liao brothers and the first highest elder, as well as the sun-opening Divine Lord in the sky, were all involuntarily taken aback. Then they all laughed involuntarily. Was Su Fang scared out of his wits? The flying sword pierced through the gaps between the arrows, and collided with an arrow. This arrow exploded, immediately causing a chain reaction. One arrow after another shattered with a loud bang. The huge arrow array shattered layer by layer, and finally collapsed with a loud bang. The 100,000 arrows condensed from the energy of heaven and earth all turned into flowing light, splashing all over the sky, like a dazzling meteor shower. Everyone was dumbfounded. Damn it, how could he be so lucky? A top-grade flying sword was able to break my supreme arrow array? Boss Liao was stunned for a moment, and then a whirlwind appeared under his feet. His body shot out like an arrow, and in an instant he was in front of Su Fang. He raised his hand, and another volley of arrows came flying at him. 4 Seasons Samsara Seal. Su Fang quickly formed a seal, shooting out a Xian Guang vortex, which changed colors of green, red, gold, and black. It swept out with the divine power of the 4 seasons samsara and the evolution of time. Under the divine power of the time samsara, the momentum of the arrow shot by Boss Liao was shattered. The arrow quickly decayed, and its power was completely gone. You have mastered the remarkable power of the way of time. I have really underestimated you, an ant from a big world. Kill. Boss Liao's body was like a big bow, and his arm was like an arrow. His body bent and then he punched out. Like an arrow leaving the bow, he brought with him an indestructible momentum and crashed toward Su Fang. "You want to fight me in close combat with your divine power? I am least afraid of close combat." Su Fang sneered disdainfully, and immediately entered his natal state, the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda Fusion Flesh. The two demon saint-level commanders were taken by the second primordial spirit to rescue the Square Heaven Great World, and the Xianhuang Six Paths Pagoda Junior Commander and the Big Goblin. Su Fang directly absorbed their power and merged it with his body. How terrifying would his strength be? Boom! Boom! In his natal state, Su Fang began to fight with Boss Liao. The earth-shattering collision shook the sky. The 81 dojos of the Tianming Haotsong sect below were impacted by the aftermath of the collision. Countless buildings collapsed, and countless cultivators were shaken to death. Just as Su Fang and Boss Liao were fighting, second brother Liao's figure flashed, and he planned to help Boss Liao and suppress Su Fang. Suddenly, swoosh! An illusory black Xian Guang shot out from the void. Caught off guard, second brother Liao was hit by the black Xian Guang on the back of his head. An illusory divine power of the primordial spirit impacted his divine aperture, and he felt dizzy. He staggered and almost fell. The black Xian Guang was the black mark rune that the second primordial spirit resided in. After the second primordial spirit settled down in the Square Heaven world, it immediately traveled through the void and hid in the void. Not to mention the Liao brothers, even the Mizar Divine Lord didn't notice it. Until now, it launched an astonishing primordial spirit attack at second brother Liao. What the hell is this? It can release such an astonishing primordial spirit divine power. Second brother Liao was shocked. He was indeed a deity, and not an ordinary one at that. His strength was even higher than Sang Han's. Although the unexpected attack of the second primordial spirit injured second brother Liao's primordial spirit, it was about to enter his brain. Suddenly, a dozen primordial spirit arrows burst out from his brain and collided with the black mark rune. After a moment of stalemate, second brother Liao's primordial spirit divine power was shattered layer by layer. The second primordial spirit forcefully and overbearingly attacked his divine aperture. Second brother Liao had to start a life and death battle with the second primordial spirit in the spiritual world. On Su Fang's side, Boss Liao was still undefeated, and he was even suppressing Su Fang. It was not because of his strength, but because Su Fang was always on guard against the Mizar Divine Lord, and did not activate the most powerful power of the inner world. The three good-for-nothings of the Liao family are quite famous bandits in the universe, but they can't even deal with the cultivators of the macro world. Seeing this scene, the Mizar Divine Lord could not help but be surprised and angry. Immediately, he sent a message to the first Supreme Elder with his primordial spirit. If you don't activate the Tianluo Great Formation now, how long are you going to wait? Activate the Tianluo Great Formation? The first Supreme Elder could not help but tremble. The power of the Tianluo Great Formation was incomparably powerful, but the price to pay was not small. If he activated the formation in his current state, even if he did not die, he would lose half his life. However, how could he dare to disobey the order of the Mizar Divine Lord? The first Supreme Elder flew to the sky and slowly formed a seal, striking out a series of shocking seals. The 80 stars of the Heavenly Fate Haotsong sect and the Heavenly Fate Celestial Land burst into a great commotion. The earth quaked and the mountains shook. The world origin flew out from the depths of the earth and turned into a river of stars around the first Supreme Elder. In an instant, the first Supreme Elder was enveloped by a supreme aura of the heavenly Tao, as if he was a supreme ruler who controlled the heavens. Su Fang, even if I have to risk my life, I will suppress you. Prepare to die. The first Supreme Elder's majestic voice was like the voice of the heavenly Tao, and there was infinite madness in it. Rumble. Then, from the 81 dojos and the surrounding worlds, an astonishing amount of world origin power surged towards Su Fang with an overwhelming force, as if the power of the entire macro world had gathered together. Damn it, you want to suppress me as well. Under such terrifying power, everything would be crushed to pieces. Even Boss Liao could not escape the fate of being crushed, and he immediately shouted coldly. You're the one who deserves to die. It should be you. Half-floating life Su Fang smiled coldly, looking at the first Supreme Elder with eyes full of disdain and ridicule, with an aura of contempt for the heavens. A supreme power that could control the world burst out from Su Fang's body. The river of stars around the first Supreme Elder collapsed and turned into starlight that flew to Su Fang's side. The surging world origin power was also tamed by Su Fang in an instant. Suddenly, the entire world seemed to have changed owners. The control of the Tajura Great Formation fell into the hands of Su Fang. The first Supreme Elder used his hand to control the world origin and activate the Tajura Great Formation. He was not truly controlling it but borrowing it, and Su Fang was like the master of the world origin. At this time, he forcibly took back control. The first Supreme Elder who borrowed the world origin had to return it even if he did not want to. Puff. Chapter 1811. It wasn't a secret that Su Fang had mastered the ethereal truth, and it wasn't difficult to find out. However, it was impossible for the ethereal truth to integrate and control the Tianming Haotsong sect's world origin so easily in such a short time. Not only did it require great strength, but it also required the cultivation of the world's power to a level that even a demigod expert couldn't reach. Grand Supreme Elder could only control the world's origin through a seal, but he couldn't control it directly. Su Fang had integrated the world's origin in just 3 days, and he could control it so easily. It was no wonder that Grand Supreme Elder was so shocked. Not only him, but even the Mizar Divine Lord found it unbelievable. Other than mastering the ethereal 10,000 laws Tao, the magic power that integrated the world's origin is the magic power of yin and yang. What I cultivate isn't the world fragment that ordinary experts cultivate, but the world tree. My power is the power of the world of yin and yang fused with the world fragment. Moreover, I have cultivated the world in my body. My ability to control the great world is something that even the Tianming ancestor can't compare to. Su Fang sneered in his heart. He used the world's origin to activate the Tajura formation, forming a shocking shackle that shrouded Boss Liao. Damn it, these idiots from the Tianming Haotsong sect, they actually allowed Su Fang to control the world's origin, and he used the Tajura formation to deal with me. Damn it, damn it. Boss Liao was shocked and angry. He used all his strength and even activated the divine bow. Although he was powerful and had a divine weapon, he was fighting against a great world of the Tianming Haotsong sect. Moreover, the Tajura formation contained the will of the great world's heavenly way and the power of the heavenly way. In addition, there was a strong enemy like Su Fang. Even if Boss Liao's strength was heaven-defying, how could he escape the fate of being suppressed? If you don't want to die, give up resisting and accept my shackles, Su Fang said majestically. His cold voice was like the voice of the heavenly way. You want me to submit to a low-level existence like you, from a great world? Boss Liao was a bandit from the God realm. He wasn't even willing to submit to the Mizar Divine Lord, so how could he submit to a great world cultivator like Su Fang? He scoffed at Su Fang's words. That would be great. Su Fang was about to head to World's End and enter the celestial plane. Seeing that the 3 deities who cultivated the Tao of archery possessed extraordinary strength, he had wanted to take them in as his slaves. It didn't matter if he couldn't subdue them. The corpse of a true god was the best material for cultivation. 3 true gods were enough to help Su Fang reach the true god realm. Boom. Boom. Su Fang controlled the power of the world and slammed it towards Boss Liao. It was as if the entire world's natural energy was pressing down on Boss Liao's body. No matter how strong this god world's bandit was, he was still violently coughing out blood from the pressure, and his body was shattered. This time, Boss Liao was finally scared. "Surrender, I surrender!" "Lousy?" Su Fong snorted. The surrounding power of the world suddenly became several times more violent. Boss Liao coughed out a mouthful of blood that contained his internal organs. He quickly said, "No, no, no, it's this little one is willing to surrender." Boss Liao opened up his divine aperture and body, allowing Su Fong to insert the seal seeds into his primordial spirit and dantian. These seal seeds were created by Su Fong using the power of his inner world. Unless Su Fong's inner world collapsed, Boss Liao would not be able to break the seal. Next, Su Fong shackled Boss Liao into his inner world and kept him as a companion for Liao Laosan. Seeing Boss Liao and Liao Laosan being shackled by Su Fong, Liao Laosan, who was engaged in a life and death battle with Su Fong's second primordial spirit, suddenly panicked and lost all will to fight. Under the suppression of Su Fong's second primordial spirit, he was forced to retreat. In the end, he gave up resisting and allowed Su Fong's second primordial spirit to shackle him. Just like that, the 3 bandits sent by the Mizar Divine Monarch to kill Su Fong were all suppressed by Su Fong. Su Fong looked at the first Supreme Elder and laughed loudly. Many thanks to Heaven's mandate, Hao Tsang Sek's great encirclement array. Puff blood spurted out of First Supreme Elder's heart again. His vision turned black and he fell down. Su Fong controlled the power of the world and shackled him. Seeing that First Supreme Elder's aura was weak and he was about to die at any time, Su Fong took out a peak-grade Yin-Yang Immortal Sky pellet and put it into his mouth, urging a Yang force to help him refine the medicinal efficacy. Su Fong was so kind that he naturally didn't want First Supreme Elder to die too easily. "Su Fong, you dare to destroy the orthodoxy of my Seal Heaven divine path in the outside world. How can I allow you to be arrogant?" An angry roar came from the sky. Mizar Divine Monarch finally couldn't sit still and wanted to personally take action. Finally can't hold it anymore? Su Fong's expression became dignified and he quickly recalled Su Fong's second primordial spirit. However, from the beginning to the end, Su Fong didn't display his strongest strength because he wanted to guard against Mizar Divine Monarch. What made Su Fong feel strange was why Mizar Divine Monarch had been hiding his strength all this time and didn't personally take action until now. Su Fong was fearless. At this time, he had fused with the world origin of the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect. Coupled with the world in his body, even if he didn't use the powerful power of the origin sacred mirror, he still had the ability to fight Mizar Divine Monarch. Chi. Mizar Divine Monarch controlled a flying sword and descended from the sky. His flying sword was naturally a divine artifact, and a very extraordinary one at that. The power of the 4 elements of earth, water, fire, and wind circled around the flying sword. It had a terrifying momentum of the great Tao. It set off a whistling sword chi in the void for thousands of miles. Space-time and energy storms raged around him like a meteor falling from the sky and swooping down towards Su Fong. Su Fong's expression became more dignified. How could Mizar Divine Monarch's strength compare to mystery? He was even stronger than Marquis V. How could he deal with mystery? Marquis V. Su Fong could use the Origin Sacred Mirror to release the 9 Yang True Fire and the Sun God's power of the Dragon Bird. Against Mizar Divine Monarch, these advantages were useless. Boom, boom, boom. Su Fong used the Tajura Great Array and clashed with Mizar Divine Monarch. The heavens and earth shook and the galaxies tumbled. The 81 dojos of the Tianming Hao Tsang sect collided violently. Stars shattered and buildings collapsed. Chi. It turned out that Liao Lauer, under the threat of his second primordial spirit, released sharp arrows and attacked Mizar Divine Monarch from afar, causing great trouble for Mizar Divine Monarch. "Liao Lauer, you're courting death." Mizar Divine Monarch was shocked and angry. He had left a shackle in Liao Laoer's body. Just as he was about to activate it, Su Fang rushed out of the Tajura Great Array. This time, he used the power of the world in his body and shattered Mizar Divine Monarch's sword chi of the 4 elements with a punch, causing Mizar Divine Monarch to retreat. How could he have the chance to activate the restriction in Liao Laoer's body? In this way, Su Fang borrowed the world origin of the Tianming Haotsang sect, the power of the Tajura Great Array, and the powerful power of his own world. With Liao Laoer's interference from afar, although he could not defeat Mizar Divine Monarch, the latter could not do anything to Su Fang. Damned Su Fang, damned Liao Laoer! Mizar Divine Monarch could not help but become anxious. His divine power was consumed bit by bit and was almost impossible to replenish. Su Fang, on the other hand, controlled the world origin of the Tianming Haotsang sect and could draw upon the power of the world in an almost endless stream. Coupled with Su Fang's strange and powerful power of yin and yang, if the stalemate continued, not only would he not be able to suppress Su Fang, but he would also have to consider running away. Moreover, Mizar Divine Monarch still had worries in his heart and did not dare to use his full strength. If he really killed Su Fang with his own hands, he would also not be able to escape the suppression of the supreme divine race that controlled the heavenly Tao of a large world. Even Seal Heaven Divine sect would not be able to escape the fate of destruction. Suddenly, the sky darkened in an instant, and monstrous demon chi covered the sky. The space fluctuated violently like the surface of the sea, and a monster that looked like a big fish slid out of nothingness. This monster was jet black and incomparably huge. It could cross the galaxy and gave off a boundless feeling, as if the void was a sea that it could roam freely. Kuan, it's the ancient divine beast Kuan. Mizar Divine Monarch revealed a look of shock. The aura of this divine beast. Su Fang's eyebrows furrowed, and a look of incredulity appeared in his eyes. The giant Kuan swam out of nothingness and swooped down. Its figure rapidly changed and turned into a huge azure pring. Its claws and wings were golden, and it carried with it a monstrous demon chi. It had a domineering aura that allowed it to roam freely in the vast world. Senior Azure Feather. It's Senior Azure Feather, how did he become like this? Su Fang was extremely shocked. Swoosh! The azure pung arrived in a flash, and its speed was several times faster than Liao Laoer's arrow. It was as if the shackles of the world not only did not cause any obstacles or restraints to him, but instead helped him. Space and distance had no meaning to him. Boom! The Mizar Divine Monarch was sent flying hundreds of thousands of miles away by the azure pring. His chest had been scratched by sharp claws, and his internal organs could be seen. The Mizar Divine Monarch formed a hand seal and wiped it across his chest. His injuries instantly healed, but his aura had withered a little. So it's a big goblin of the Pung clan. The big goblin of the Pung clan of the large world is not rare, but a big goblin of the Pung clan that can transform into both a Kuan and a Pung at the same time is unique. Only the ancient true Kuan Pung has such a remarkable ability. However, it has just awakened this remarkable ability, so I don't need to care about it. The Mizar Divine Monarch smiled disdainfully. Swoosh! As soon as the Mizar Divine Monarch's voice fell, the giant azure pung spewed out a black flying sword, releasing a black Xian Guang, which shot towards the Mizar Divine Monarch in a flash. Greatly shocked, the Mizar Divine Monarch teleported away, but he was one step too late. The black Xian Guang cut off a piece of flesh from his right arm. The black Xian Guang turned into a black feather with a golden divine pattern, drifted in the air, and fell into the black flying sword. Whoosh! The second primordial spirit shot out from Liao Laoer's divine aperture. Su Fang also urged the power of the world in his body, shuttled through the void and attacked the Mizar Divine Monarch, and then released Gui Gui. Su Fang, I'll let you be arrogant for a while. You will ascend to the God realm soon. When you reach the God realm, you will be hunted down by the sealing heaven divine path. The Mizar divine monarch also realized at this time that if he stayed here today, he might be suppressed by Su Fang. It was almost impossible to kill Su Fang in the large world. He could only return to the God realm and try to kill Su Fang as soon as he entered the God realm. Chapter 1812. Su Fang, I'll be waiting for you in the God realm. And you, Demon Rock, I'll skin you alive for injuring me today. The Mizar Divine Lord glanced coldly at Su Fang and the green-feathered Demon Emperor, and then soared into the sky. At this time, Law spoke in Su Fang's body. Su Fang, if you let this person return to the myriad realms, there will be countless troubles in the future. Let me use your physical body to kill him. At most, I'll lose some of my primordial spirit power. No. Su Fang flatly rejected Law's proposal. Law had injured his primordial spirit origin in the demon ancient world. If he forcibly used the primordial spirit power at this time, it would be like adding fuel to the fire. This was something that Su Fang absolutely did not want to see. Since I became a cultivator, I've stepped on the bodies of countless powerful enemies to reach my current height. The Mizar Divine Lord and the sealing heaven divine path are just whetstones for me after I enter the myriad realms. What's there to worry about? Su Fang revealed a lofty and domineering aura. Law no longer spoke, but he sighed in his heart. The lower domain cultivator, who had just ascended to the myriad realms, has now transformed into an expert in terms of strength, Tao heart, and will. He doesn't have to rely on me for everything. How arrogant! The green-feathered demon emperor, who had transformed into a giant golden-winged green rock, flashed a fierce demonic light in his eyes, and was about to chase after the Mizar Divine Lord. Senior, let him go. Su Fang stopped the green-feathered demon emperor. Only then did the green-feathered demon emperor give up, and transformed into a green-robed man that Su Fang was familiar with. The Mizar Divine Lord's figure instantly flew into the horizon and disappeared without a trace. With his strength, if he wanted to leave, no one in the myriad realms could stop him. Su Fang activated his fulfillment ability to sense the green-feathered demon emperor. He found that the strength of the green-feathered demon emperor had surpassed the demon emperor and reached the level of demon saint. Compared to the two demon saints from the demon realm that Su Fang had seen, he was much more terrifying. Su Fang was also shocked when he thought of the scene when he transformed into the giant Kuan and used the divine wing sword to injure a god like the rising sun god lord. It seemed that the inheritance of the Kuan Peng clan that he obtained from the monster clan in the ancient battlefield of immortals and demons was no small matter. Senior, congratulations on ascending to Demon Saint. Su Fang was genuinely happy for Demon Emperor Greenfeather. No, Demon Saint Greenfeather now. Demon Sage Greenfeather said smugly, I didn't get anything this time. I obtained a drop of blood essence left behind by the ancient Kuan Peng demon god. I also obtained the innate divine power, Kuan transformation. I even fused with the divine wing sword. As for my strength, I'm probably only slightly weaker than you. Mystical Kuan transformation, Luo Chu exclaimed in surprise. He then exclaimed in admiration, this innate ability is truly extraordinary. Although the Kuan and Rock were both descendants of the ancient divine beast, the Kuan Peng, they had already diverged into two different monster clans after generations of mutation. The Kuan could transform into a giant Peng and roam the world. It could soar above the 9 heavens and devour the 9 heavens clear air. However, the Rock didn't have the ability to transform into a giant Kuan. It ate dragons as food. The two innate abilities were different. Demon Sage Greenfeather obtained a drop of the Kuan Peng demon god's blood essence and gained the ability to transform into a Kuan. It was equivalent to completely changing his bloodline and talent. With the innate talent of the ancient Kuan Peng, his lifespan would also be extended to 1 billion years. His future growth would definitely not be limited to the Great World. After transforming into a giant koan, Demon Sage Green Feather also gained the innate ability to roam the world without the shackles of the world. It was no wonder he could rush from the ancient battlefield of immortals and demons to the heavenly Fate Houtsong sect in just a few days. I wonder how Sister Bai is now. Su Fang was vaguely worried for Bai Ling. At that moment, the heavenly Fate Houtsong sect had already fallen into a panic. The world origin was controlled by Su Fang, and the Grand Elder was suppressed. Even the gods of the Seal Heaven Divine Path had fled. The heavenly Fate Houtsong sect had collapsed. When the tree fell, the monkeys scattered. How could the cultivators of the heavenly Fate Houtsong sect not panic? It was as if the sky had collapsed. Cultivators of the heavenly Fate Houtsong sect, stay in the cave abode. Kill anyone who dares to act rashly. Su Fang's voice was filled with killing intent. It was transmitted to every corner of the 81 training halls with the help of the world divine might. Only then did the entire heavenly Fate Houtsong sect quiet down. Next, Su Fang used the power of the world to completely seal the protective barrier around the heavenly Fate Houtsong sect to prevent the cultivators from falling into chaos. Each of the 81 training halls of the heavenly Fate Houtsong sect was a planet. One could imagine the number of cultivators there. Once chaos broke out, no matter how powerful Su Fang was, it would be difficult for him to clean up such a huge mess. After all, the heavenly Fate Houtsong sect was the strongest faction of the immortal Tao. If the heavenly Fate Houtsong sect fell into chaos, the entire immortal Tao world would fall into chaos too. It would also give them a chance to resurrect the experts, demons, and beasts. As for what to do with the heavenly Fate Houtsong sect, Su Fang had already made his decision. He returned to the Square Heaven Great World. All hail the Master! In the Square Heaven Great World there was a roar like a tsunami. Countless cultivators, great demons, and some Devil Dao cultivators prostrated themselves on the ground and worshipped Su Fang as a god. Su Fang settled down in the Square Heaven Great World. At the same time, he distributed a large amount of resources to his injured subordinate. He also used his wood element and yang qi to help the Tianhu spiritual tree recover. Many of his subordinates had been killed by the heavenly Fate Houtsong sect. Even the barbaric god Demon Highness had almost died. His vitality was greatly damaged. Without 100,000 years to recover, he would not be able to return to his peak condition. Some of his familiar subordinates had also been killed by the heavenly Fate Houtsong sect. Ting Ba, Mao Chang, and the Withered Immortal were among them. Even if Su Fang was unbelievably strong, he would not be able to resurrect them. First Supreme Elder. Su Fang's heart was burning with killing intent. He released the first Supreme Elder from the world in his body. After receiving Su Fang's Yang Qi and consuming a King-grade Yin-Yang Immortal Sky Elixir, the first Supreme Elder, who had been on the verge of death, recovered some of his energy. First Supreme Elder, did you think that this day would come? Su Fang said coldly. The first Supreme Elder sighed. I did not expect it. I really did not expect that a disciple of mine in the past, a lowly existence that I could kill with one finger, would actually defy the heavens and destroy the heavenly Fate Houtsong sect. I regret it. Su Fang sneered. It's too late to regret now. The first Supreme Elder gritted his teeth and said, I regret that I was not ruthless enough and underestimated you. If I knew this would happen, I would have killed you before you grew. Otherwise, why would there be such a calamity? If not for the upper echelons of the sect suppressing me wantonly and even using my family, friends, and subordinates to threaten me, the heavenly Fate Houtsong sect would not be where it is today. Although I was the one who destroyed the heavenly Fate Houtsong sect, the real culprit should be you, old thief. Even now, you still do not repent? Su Fang said coldly. The winner takes all. You are the winner. You can say whatever you want. If I fall into your hands, the worst that can happen is death. What can you do? The first Supreme Elder sneered disdainfully. You sent evil Punisher Tao Master to capture my family and threaten me with the square heaven great world. Moreover, you used cruel means to kill my subordinate. If I kill you like this, wouldn't I be letting you off too easily? I want you to live well. You can't die even if you want to. Su Fang revealed a smile, but his eyes exuded traces of coldness. Su Fang, you plan to humiliate me. The first Supreme Elder trembled and shouted coldly. Humiliate? You think too highly of yourself. Why would I humiliate a dog? Su Fang smiled coldly. His eyes were ferocious and filled with killing intent. On the path of cultivation, Su Fang had experienced countless dangers and was used to seeing ruthless people. His Tao heart had also been honed to be incomparably cold. He never showed mercy to his enemies. However, Su Fang dealt with his enemies. If he could subdue them, he would do so. If he could not, he would just kill them. However, it was different this time. The first Supreme Elder had repeatedly targeted Su Fang's family, friends, and subordinate. He had touched Su Fang's reverse scale. Every dragon had a reverse scale. Touching it would infuriate them. How could Su Fang let him die peacefully? Then, Su Fang released the Vermilion Emperor. Senior Green Feather, I'll leave him to you. Whoosh! Demon Sage Green Feather appeared in front of Su Fang. He opened his mouth and spat out a stream of demonic aura. It condensed into a demonic aura chain that firmly shackled the first Supreme Elder. Then, Demon Sage Green Feather grabbed the chain with one hand and slowly flew out with the first Supreme Elder, as if he was flying a kite. Demon Sage Green Feather dragged the first Supreme Elder and flew around the Heaven's Mandate, Haotsong Sect. From time to time, he would release a stream of demonic aura that exploded in the first Supreme Elder's body and drilled into his organs. Under the intense pain, the first Supreme Elder screamed uncontrollably. Seeing this scene, the cultivators of the Heaven's Mandate, Haotsong Sect, trembled in fear. Seeing that the first Supreme Elder's aura had weakened, Demon Sage Green Feather took out a pill and fed it to him to recover his vitality. After the first Supreme Elder recovered slightly, Demon Sage Green Feather dragged him out of the Heaven's Mandate, Haotsong Sect. He flew past various immortal worlds and deliberately circled the first Supreme Elder in the royal city of each immortal world. He tortured the first Supreme Elder and made him scream incessantly. Just like that, Demon Sage Green Feather flew past various immortal realms and visited almost every immortal world. Countless experts in the immortal Tao Great World were shocked. Su Fang planned to unite the Square Heaven Great World, the True Dragon World, and the Heaven's Mandate Haotsong Sect to form a new huge force. The name of this force was the Heaven's Crossing Sect. Su Fang still planned to subdue all the cultivators of the Heaven's Mandate Haotsong Sect. The Heaven's Mandate Haotsong Sect had a deep foundation. Although almost all of the sect's powerhouses had been killed by Su Fang, their foundation was still extremely solid. If they could subdue the Heaven's Mandate Haotsong Sect, Su Fang's overall strength would skyrocket. No other force in the Great World would be able to compare to them. At that time, Su Fang would not only be the #1 expert in the Great World, but also the absolute overlord of the Great World. Su Fang did not want to use forceful means to suppress the Heaven's Mandate Haotsong Sect cultivators. Blindly suppressing and shackling them would not make them submit. Therefore, Su Fang sent Dao Hengtian. With him, the former Taoist of the Heaven's Mandate Haotsong Sect. Subduing the Heaven's Mandate Haotsong Sect cultivators would be much smoother. It's time to deal with the three Liao brothers. Chapter 1813. Inner World. Baba Read Book 230. Su Fang looked down at the shackled Liao brothers and said majestically, "Tell me your names and why you listened to Kai Yang Divine Lord's decree? There's no harm in telling you. We brothers were originally bandits from the dust origin realm of the myriad world. We were known as the Three Fierce Liao. We roamed the dust origin realm, killing and plundering. Unfortunately, we killed a core disciple of the Seal Heaven Divine Path, and ended up being shackled by him. We killed you on behalf of Kai Yang Divine Lord. Naturally, we used your life to exchange for our freedom. Boss Liao was still extremely arrogant and did not take Su Fang seriously at all. So it's the three bandits of the God realm. Su Fang nodded and asked, why didn't Kai Yang personally attack at the beginning, but only at the last moment as if he was afraid? How would I know this? Boss Liao shook his head and said arrogantly, Kid, now that we brothers have fallen into your hands, we have no choice but to admit defeat. We will give you some benefits in exchange for letting us brothers go. We will owe you a favor. Su Fang's young immortal was stunned and said domineeringly, Give me some benefits? After killing the three of you, your benefits will naturally belong to me. I don't want your benefits, as long as you submit to me and work for me from now on. Submit to you? You actually want us three gods to submit to a low-level existence like you? The three Liao brothers were startled at first, then laughed wildly at the same time. We three brothers are free, how happy are we? Why would we submit to them? We didn't even submit to Kai Yang Divine Lord, a Seal Heaven Divine Path powerhouse, let alone you? Either you get the benefits and let us go, or give us a quick death and simply kill us. Boss Liao said decisively. Wouldn't it be a pity if I simply killed you? Su Fang smiled indifferently. A blood clone came into his inner world and fused with the young immortal. Next, with a thought from Su Fang, a palm-sized piece of flesh was sent to his clone by the godly might of his inner world. This piece of flesh was cut off from the Mizar Divine Lord's body by Demon Saint Green Feather using the Divine Wing Sword. It contained an astonishing amount of blood qi. Even though it was shackled by the power of the yin-yang world, it was still struggling like a living creature. Su Fang grabbed the piece of flesh with his right hand. Suddenly, his entire palm collapsed. His flesh and bones turned into blood, which wrapped around the piece of flesh and corroded it with a sizzling sound. At the same time, Su Fang activated the heavenly secret life-shortening technique, wiping out the consciousness of the Mizar Divine Lord that was contained in the flesh and blood. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, this piece of flesh quickly turned into a pool of blood, burning with astonishing flames of life. Then, Su Fang activated the power of his world and compressed this piece of flesh into a solid crystal, like a piece of blood jade. The life force contained in this blood crystal was more than 100 times purer than the crystal that Su Fang condensed from the blood qi of the ancient gluttonous demon in the devil birth abyss. Moreover, it contained the life force and powerful divine power of an expert in the God realm. No matter how many experts in the great world were added together, they would not be able to reach such a level. Su Fang put away the blood crystal and stored it as a cultivation resource for breaking through to the true God realm. If he was injured in the future, this blood crystal would be a supreme treasure for rapid recovery. If you want to die, it won't be that easy. All the treasures on you will belong to me, including your life force and divine power, will become my cultivation tool. You will end up like this piece of flesh of the Mizar Divine Lord, refined into a blood crystal by me. Su Fang said coldly. The three brothers of the Liao family turned pale, and their eyes revealed a look of horror. Su Fang sneered secretly. These three bandits, who were self-conceited as true gods of the heavens, naturally had a superior mentality and looked down on the cultivators of the great world. Moreover, they were ruthless bandits. Only by being more ruthless and cruel than them could they be afraid. It seems that it's not enough. Law, come here. Su Fang transmitted his thought to Law and then moved Law from the time cave abode in his body into his inner world. Seeing Law in blood-red clothes, the three brothers of the Liao family were shocked. The eldest brother of the Liao family said in a trembling voice, Azura, you're an expert of the Azura Divine Clan. And not an ordinary Azura, but the king of the Azura Divine Clan. Su Fang added. Then, Su Fang asked Law, the blood of these three true gods should be of some help to your primordial spirit, right? Law looked at the three of them with contempt and said disdainfully, "They're just 3 ants. Their blood is of some use to me, but not much. It's better to keep it first. When you meet a strong enemy in the future, I can use the Azura divine ability to fuse with their bodies. This way, I can also burst out with more power." The 3 brothers of the Liao family instantly changed. Law looked at the 3 of them and sneered disdainfully, "You 3 idiots, a great fortune that is hard to come by in your lifetime is in front of you, and you still put on the airs of a true god. How ridiculous!" Great fortune? The 3 brothers of the Liao family were surprised. Law pointed at Su Fang. Su Fang ascended from a small world to a great world. From a lowly cultivator to a true god. He is about to advance to the true god realm. At this time, he can even kill true gods. The whole process took him less than 10,000 years. For such a peerless figure to recognize him as master, if it's not your fortune, what is it? The 3 beasts of the Liao family showed an incredulous look. They refused to believe Law's words. Law then said, "It's fine if you don't believe it. Look around you, this is not a treasure world, but Su Fang's inner world." Seeing that the 3 of them were confused, Law sneered, "You 3 ants, you still don't know what an inner world is, right? An inner world, that is, a real universe cultivated in the body, also known as a small world. In the myriad worlds, not to mention ordinary true gods, even those realm lords of the divine realm cannot cultivate a small world. Only those peerless giants and true gods can have a small world. Now do you understand what kind of achievements Su Fang will reach in the future? You 3 idiots, to be able to become his slave masters, you will also become a true god in the future. With such a great fortune in front of you, you don't want it. Stupid, too stupid." Law's words were like thunder, shaking the heads of the 3 brothers of the Liao family. However, it was obviously impossible for them to submit just like that. Law said coldly to Su Fang, "Why did you take such idiots as your subordinates? You might as well just devour them and break through to the true god realm in one fell swoop. At that time, it will be easy to crush the rising sun god lord. Why would you need such useless subordinates? You might as well refine them into corpse puppets, they will be of some use." "That's right." Su Fang deeply agreed with Law's words. With a whoosh, the blood-water clone turned into the underworld blood sea state and swept toward the 3 brothers of the Liao family. "Boss, I don't want to die. Submit, quickly submit. Submit, we submit, master, we submit." The 3 brothers of the Liao family hurriedly knelt down and kowtowed. The rolling blood water recondensed into Su Fang's body, condensing the power of yin and yang, turning into 2 seal seeds and entering the bodies of Liao Lauer and Liao Laosan. As for Liao Lauer, Su Fang had already left a seal seed in his body when he was suppressed. Chi. Su Fang activated the life-shrinking technique and easily erased the primordial spirit seal that the rising sun god lord left in the heads of the 3 brothers. As for the seals in the bodies of the 3 brothers, it was difficult for Su Fang to remove them with his current strength. Therefore, he activated the Chaos Divine Mirror and used his consciousness to control it into the bodies of the 3 brothers. In a moment, the rising sun god lord's seal was burned clean. This time, the 3 brothers of the Liao family were shocked. Not only did they look at Su Fang in a new light, but there was also a hint of reverence in their eyes. Then, Su Fang gave each of them 100 king-grade yin-yang immortal sky pills to heal their injuries. Old monster Zhu Tian and the alchemy master of the heavenly fate, Hao Tsang sect, refined the king-grade yin-yang immortal sky pill much faster. Moreover, Su Fang did not lack high-quality alchemy materials. The quality of the yin-yang immortal sky pill was higher than before, infinitely close to the level of a divine pill. At this time, Su Fang was very rich, so he could take it out and reward it to his subordinate. The king-grade yin-yang immortal sky pill not only had an astonishing effect on the cultivators of the large world, the medicinal power of the flesh and the power of yin and yang were also of great help to the gods. Su Fang still had 10 middle-grade divine essence pills. Even in the divine realm, pills of this quality were very precious. Naturally, Su Fang could not bear to take them out. When they received the king-grade Yin-Yang Immortal Sky pill, the three brothers of the Liao family were a little disdainful at first, but they did not dare to say it out loud. This was also very normal. How could the gods of the various heavens and realms care about the pills of the large world? However, when they tried to consume one, they felt the strange medicinal power and magical effects of the pill. The three brothers of the Liao family were shocked. Then, they felt that following such a master was not necessarily a bad thing. Just like this, Su Fang had 3 more gods under his command. Moreover, they were experts in the Tao of archery. With these 3 experts, they would at least have the ability to protect themselves after ascending to the divine realm. However, Su Fang still had to put in a lot of effort in the future to make these 3 unruly thieves submit to him wholeheartedly. Next, it's time to deal with the Heaven's Mandate Haotsang sect. Subduing the 3 brothers of the Liao family was to prepare for ascending to the divine realm. As for subduing the Heaven's Mandate Haotsang sect, Su Fang wanted to deal with the aftermath after leaving the large world. When going to the divine realm, everything would have to start from scratch. Su Fang could not bring his father, clansmen, and other friends and subordinate. Therefore, he had to ensure that he had an absolute overlord force in the large world. Su Fang did not lack experts under his command. He even had a few demigod experts. What he lacked was a strong foundation for an overlord force. Su Fang wanted to establish his own supreme force on the foundation of the Heaven's Mandate Haotsang sect. Su Fang asked Dao Hengtian to come forward. He originally thought that it would be easy to make the cultivators of the Heaven's Mandate Haotsang sect submit. Chapter 1814. Human Emperor World. Su Fang's main body was accompanying his father, Su Yaotian, to talk, enjoying a rare moment of familial affection. Zhang Ruyun, Lan Haiqing, Xiaomei Li Ziqing, Su Zhenhua, and other cultivators from small worlds, as well as Su Fang's in-name disciple, Zhu Yan, and Madame Zhu were also at the side. Ever since Su Fang brought the 5 small worlds to the Great World, the cultivators in the small worlds had already advanced to Immortal Realm. Su Yaotian was already a 9th profound Immortal Realm cultivator, and the other's improvement speed was also extremely shocking. The various cultivation techniques, secret manuals, pills, spiritual items, and other resources provided by Su Fang were the best in the Great World. It was very difficult for the cultivators of these small worlds to not improve quickly. The only regret was Xiaomei. His second primordial spirit had yet to completely possess the Lord of the Dark Realm, so he had yet to find a way to cure Xiaomei. Su Fang could only wait patiently. There was another matter that gave Su Fang a headache, and that was Zhang Ruyun. Her feelings for Su Fang were already undisguised, and she was deeply liked by him. However, Su Fang's heart could no longer hold any other woman, so he could only let her down. Brother Su. Dao Hengtian floated over with a tired and ashamed look on his face. Su Fang raised his eyebrows. What's wrong? Things didn't go well? The Heavenly Fate Haotsang sect's Supreme Grand Elder was currently being brought by Demon Saint Greenfeather to tour the immortal Tao world. The sect master was killed by Su Fang, and the other Supreme Elders and Tao sovereigns were almost all killed by Su Fang. The destruction of the Heavenly Fate Haotsang sect was a foregone conclusion. Other than submitting to Su Fang, there was no other choice. Letting Dao Hengtian go to the Heavenly Fate Haotsang sect was only because Su Fang did not want to cause any trouble, nor did he want to use forceful means to suppress them. Logically speaking, Dao Hengtian should be able to go smoothly. Dao Hengtian let out a sigh and explained slowly. The Heavenly Fate Haotsang sect was known as the leader of the immortal Tao, and the cultivators in the sect were all arrogant and domineering. Moreover, Su Fang had killed the cultivators of the Heavenly Fate Haotsang sect too ruthlessly. Even the Supreme Grand Elder was tortured and humiliated by Su Fang, so many cultivators were naturally filled with hatred towards Su Fang. Haotsong sex lost. Fang's Haotsong sex lost was the heavens. And Haotsong. As a result, the entire heavenly mandate Haotsong sect hardened their hearts. They could submit to Su Fang, but they had to agree to his conditions. Haotsong sect Fang sect sex Fang, Haotsong sect. Su Fang was shocked after hearing Dao Hengtian's words. He sneered after a brief pause, "Aren't these cultivators afraid of death?" Dao Hengtian sighed, "Brother Su, have you never heard of the saying, the law cannot punish the masses? The law cannot be enforced when there are too many of them." Su Fang smiled faintly as his eyes turned cold. Dao Hengtian said, "Holy man Han Su has brought the sect masters of a dozen sects with him. They came with me to discuss with you in person. Su Fang, do you want to meet them?" Su Fang nodded. "All right, let them come." Dao Hengtian immediately transmitted his immortal spirit. After half an hour, the sect masters of the heavenly fate Haotsong sect, led by holy man Han Su, arrived at the great hall of the mortal emperor world. There were varying expressions on their faces. Some had their chests puffed out, looking as though they would rather die than submit. Some had faces filled with hatred. Some glanced at Su Yaotian and the other cultivators before revealing looks of disdain. Clearly, they were looking down on Su Fang and the other cultivators. Before Su Fang could speak, holy man Han Su and the other sect masters took their seat. Smack! A red-haired elder slammed the armrest of his chair and shouted at Su Fang. "Su Fang, you killed countless cultivators of the heavenly fate Haotsong sect and humiliated the first supreme elder. Now you want us to submit to you? The heavenly fate Haotsong sect only has cultivators who die standing, not cowards who live kneeling." Su Fang touched the tip of his nose and his eyes were frozen. Another sect master stood up. "The heavenly fate Haotsong sect has 81 sections. From the sect masters to the lowest level cultivators, there are a total of 148 million cultivators. Including these cultivators' families and servants, there are over 2 billion people. Even if killing is your second nature, why don't you kill everyone?" Then, another cultivator pointed at Dao Hengtian and shouted, "The heavenly fate Haotsong sect has nurtured you for so long and even made you a Taoist. Yet you are so ungrateful and side with the enemy. Not only will I expel you from the sect, I will also expel you from the sect." This cultivator was the only remaining high-level Tao realm cultivator in the heavenly fate Haotsong sect. He was the first supreme elder and also Dao Hengtian's master. Dao Hengtian knelt on the ground and said nothing. Su Fang said indifferently, "Everyone, don't forget your identities. You are now my, Su Fang's, prisoners, and not some high and mighty upper echelon of a sect. You just want to keep your power and status and bargain with me. Holy man Han Su, you have the highest prestige in the sect. What are your conditions? Tell me. You are indeed a smart person. Then I shall not beat around the bush." Holy man Han Su stood up and said, "If you want the heavenly fate Haotsong sect to submit to you, it's not impossible. You just have to agree to 3 of our conditions." Then, holy man Han Su raised 3 fingers and began to explain. First, the heavenly fate Haotsong sect must be preserved. Dao Hengtian can be the sect leader and an elder council can be established. You will be the first supreme elder of the sect, and the sect will respect you. However, unless it is a matter of life and death, you are not allowed to interfere in the sect's affairs. Second, the status and cultivation resources of the sect's cultivators will remain unchanged. Third, immediately release the first supreme elder. A secret realm can be set aside for him to live out his remaining years. After holy man Han Su finished speaking, Su Zhenhua shouted coldly, "A sect that has already been destroyed still dares to be so arrogant in front of my master?" The Red Elder looked at Su Zhenhua and said disdainfully, "A puny Xian immortal has the right to shout in front of holy man Han Su?" Su Zhenhua retorted, "You are just my master's prisoners. My master only needs to give the order and your heads will fall to the ground." At this time, Su Fang said indifferently, "Holy man Han Su, these are your 3 conditions?" Holy man Han Su was startled and nodded, "That's right. That's not much. Return to the heavenly fate Haotsong sect for the time being." Su Fang waved his hand. Holy man Han Su said in surprise, "Do you agree to our 3 conditions? Half a year later, when the first Supreme Elder returns, I will go to the heavenly fate Haotsong sect and give you an answer in person." Su Fang's reaction surprised the higher-ups of the heavenly fate Haotsong sect. They put forward such harsh conditions to let Su Fang know that they were not pigs and sheep that Su Fang could slaughter. Then, they would be able to bargain and retain their power. Unexpectedly, Su Fang did not suppress them as they expected, nor did he make any concessions. He was neither soft nor hard. This made the higher-ups of the heavenly fate Haotsong sect feel that they had punched empty air. Holy man Han Su led the crowd out of the main hall. His smug and arrogant voice came from outside. "I don't believe that he really dares to kill all the cultivators of the heavenly fate Haotsong sect. The law does not punish the majority. As long as we stick together, no matter how strong he is, what can he do to us? In the end, he will still have to obediently agree to our conditions. At most, we will make some concessions and let him look better. In the great world, what's the use of just being strong? Without a foundation, it still won't work." These cultivators clearly said these words on purpose. First, it was to demonstrate to Su Fang. Second, it was to reveal that they could continue to negotiate. Dao Hengtian sighed, "Brother Su, if it really doesn't work, we should make some concessions. The heavenly fate Haotsong sect's foundation is too strong. We can only think of ways to slowly weaken their power." Su Yaotian nodded, "Dao Hengtian is right. To become an overlord, one must know how to play politics. It is difficult to maintain a strong force by blindly suppressing them." Li Ziqing shook his head. "If we retreat, it will be a big blow to Su Fang's prestige. I don't believe that we can't subdue them with thunder." Su Zhenhua snorted coldly, "Those who refuse to submit, kill." The heavenly fate Haotsong sect killed so many people in the square heaven great world, and almost destroyed it. Killing them all is not enough. Su Yaotian shouted, "Killing 10,000 or 10 million people is fine, but can we kill everyone? What's the difference between that and the demons and resurrected experts? Killing too much will not only damage one's Dao heart, it will also damage Su Fang's luck." Su Zhenhua did not dare to make a sound. Li Ziqing asked, "Su Fang, what's your decision?" Su Fang said slowly, "I gave them a chance, but they didn't cherish it. In that case, they can't blame me. I, Su Fang, am not some emperor. I don't need to play politics. I am a cultivator. I only know how to advance fiercely, not how to retreat." Su Yaotian warned, "Su Fang, don't lose the big picture for the small." "Father, don't worry. I can destroy the heavenly fate Haotsong sect single-handedly. Can't I deal with these remnants?" Su Fang exuded great confidence, and a domineering aura of having the situation under control spontaneously arose. Seeing Su Fang's expression, Zhang Ruoyun and Lan Haiqing looked at him with infatuation. Madame Zhu said in her heart, "A man should be like this, lying on a beauty's lap drunk, holding a killing sword when awake." Half a year later. /= swoosh. Su Fang appeared in the sky above the heavenly fate Haotsong sect with many subordinate. Monster Saint Green Feather had also returned from the other immortal domains. The first Supreme Elder was still chained by the chains condensed from Monster Chi. He looked to be on the verge of death, but he was still some distance away from death. The first Supreme Elder looked at Su Fang and sneered, "You can humiliate and torture me, but you can forget about making the heavenly fate Haotsong sect submit to you." Although his voice was weak, it was still arrogant. Su Fang smiled indifferently. Didn't you want me to give you an answer? Today, Su Fang will give you an answer. Chapter 1815. Su Fang's voice spread throughout the Tianming Haotsang sect, causing a wave of exclamations and cheers. Is an element of 8, is an element of 8, is an element of reading, is an element of book. 2 Infinity 3-0. It seems like Su Fang is under pressure and has no choice but to agree to our conditions. So what if he's a supreme expert in the great world? His rise is too fast and his foundation is shallow. It won't be easy for him to make us submit to him. No one can take away the power and resources that belong to us, not even Su Fang. So what if he's Su Fang? He has supreme strength and can destroy the Tianming Haotsang sect and kill everyone. How can we let him get his way if he wants us to submit to him? As long as we stick together, even Su Fang will have to lower his head to us. The cultivators of the Tianming Haotsang sect discussed among themselves. Many of them were smug, thinking that they had succeeded. There were also some cultivators who were surprised. Su Fang had always been domineering and overbearing. Why would he lower his head to the Tianming Haotsang sect so easily this time? Su Fang subduing the Tianming Haotsang sect was a major event that affected the immortal Tao world. Su Fang's reply to the cultivators of the Tianming Haotsang sect had already spread throughout the great world and attracted the major forces of the 8 immortal realms to inquire about it. The powerhouses of the 8 immortal realms were surprised when they saw that Su Fang had indeed come as promised without any killing intent. If Su Fang can make the Tianming Haotsang sect his own force, he will definitely become the absolute overlord of the great world. No one will be able to shake him. Now it seems that Su Fang won't be able to make the cultivators of the Tianming Haotsang sect submit to him. It's not like the other forces don't have a chance. Some powerhouses secretly calculated that if Su Fang couldn't unify the Tianming Haotsang sect, it meant that the other forces would have a chance to take a share of the pie and take the opportunity to annex the former forces of the Tianming Haotsang sect. In the Tianming city, in Grand Star Hall, Grand Star Patriarch chuckled. These cultivators of the heavenly fate Haotsang sect would have a good ending if they had submitted to Su Fang. How dare they threaten Su Fang? They're really courting death. I'll give you an answer now, Su Fang said imposingly. Then, he waved his hand at Demon Sage Azure Feather and said, Senior, release the Supreme Grand Elder. Monster Saint Green Feather removed the shackles on First Elder Tai Xiao's body. He swept up a spatial divine might and brought him in front of Su Fang. The first Supreme Elder was expressionless, but there was a hint of pride in his eyes. The heavenly mandate Haotsang sect's Grand Elder is cruel and merciless, harming cultivators of the immortal Tao and colluding with the devil race. Thus, I've decided to make him public for 1,000,000 years as a warning to others. Su Fang's cold voice spread in all directions. The entire heavenly mandate Haotsang sect fell into a deathly silence. Su Fang, don't you dare! The first Supreme Elder's divine light instantly changed. His eyes were filled with disbelief as he let out a hysterical roar. Why wouldn't I dare? Su Fang used the ethereal true scripture's ability, the ethereal primordial realm. At the same time, he coordinated it with the world divine might. Heaven and earth spiritual energy and physical particles rapidly condensed in the plaza at the center of Haotsang Sky City. In less than 10 breaths of time, a giant stone pillar 3,000 meters tall rose from the ground. Suppress. Su Fang used the world divine might to shackle First Supreme Elder. Then, he passed through the barrier and landed uncontrollably on top of the stone pillar. ZZZT ZZZT ZZZT. Su Fang flipped his palm. 9 black demonic nails shot out and nailed First Supreme Elder's throat, body, and limbs to the stone pillar. These 9 demonic nails were the 9 netherworld demonic god nails that Su Fang had collected in the past. Although the artifact spirit had been devoured by the purple cloud spirit, it was still a set of divine artifacts. Even a demigod expert would find it difficult to shake First Supreme Elder. The 81 dojos of the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect were in an uproar. Then, angry roars shook the galaxy. Anyone who dares to attack my family and friends, I, Su Fong, will definitely make them pay 10 times the price. There are no conditions to be negotiated. Don't implicate family members. I've set down this most basic rule for the great world. Anyone who disobeys will be punished. Su Fong's domineering voice reverberated, forcefully suppressing the voices of the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect cultivators. The Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect has dominated the great world for many years. It's tyrannical, brutal, and arrogant, so there's no need for the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect to exist. From today onward, the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect will no longer exist in the great world. You used to be high and mighty, enjoying cultivation resources that other cultivators could hardly enjoy. Now that the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect has been destroyed, you're still dreaming of retaining your former status and resources. How laughable! Your only choice is to submit to me and become my slave. Don't even think about the rest of your wishful thinking. Su Fong's majestic voice was like the judgment of the heavens, announcing the fate of the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect cultivators. Su Fong, how dare you treat us like this? Without our former status and cultivation resources, we'll fight it out with him. We won't submit to him even if we die. Let him kill us all. The dojos of the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect immediately boiled, as if a ladle of water had been poured into a pot of oil. The furious roars of the cultivators shook the firmament. Their fury could burn the sky. The dojos of the Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect were sealed by Su Fong with the power of the world. Cultivators could not leave the stars where the dojos were located. Otherwise, the entire Heavenly Mandate Haotsong sect would have been in chaos. If we can't get it, we can't let Su Fong get it either. If we destroy the dojos and everything, we'll just die. If Su Fong doesn't change his mind, we'll smash the dojos and take all the resources inside. The 81 dojos fell into chaos. Some crazy cultivators began to smash and loot the dojos. The experts from the 8 factions were also shocked and stunned by Su Fong's decision. Isn't Su Fong afraid of angering the crowd and losing control of the situation? He's still young and reckless. No matter how strong he is, he won't be able to become the overlord of a great world. The more chaotic it is, the better. This way, we'll have an opportunity to take advantage of. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Dao Master Han Su flew over with more than 10 upper echelons of the sect. Looking at Su Fong through the barrier, Dao Master Han Su shouted angrily, "Su Fong, why did you go back on your word? I said I'd give you an answer, so I'll give you an answer. How am I going back on my word?" Su Fong said coldly. Cultivators who want to destroy sects should know their limit. Do you think you can threaten Su Fong just because the law doesn't punish the majority? Dao Hengtian's master sneered. The situation is out of control now. Su Fong, do you really intend to kill everyone? Do it. Start with me first. I won't resist. A red-haired elder snorted and looked at Su Fong provocatively. Do you dare to kill us all? Su Fong's cold eyes swept across the two of them. Do you really think that Su Fong is soft-hearted and doesn't dare to kill? A ray of fire flashed from Su Fong's eyes. It landed on the red-haired elder's body and exploded, burning him fiercely. Amidst the blood-curdling screams, the red-haired elder's body was burned to ashes. Dao Hengtian hurriedly knelt. "Please let my master go." Su Fong waved his hand and swept out a divine aura, lifting Dao Hengtian up. He then said coldly, "You may be spared from death, but you must be punished. Shackle him for 10,000 years as punishment." Su Fong channeled the power of the world and shackled Dao Hengtian's master, then flew him to the giant stone pillar in Haotsong Tian City. The power of the world turned into chains and merged into Dao Hengtian's master and the stone pillar. Dao Hengtian revealed a bitter smile. With Su Fong's temperament, Letting his master go was already giving him a lot of face. For shackling his master, Dao Hengtian only felt gratitude towards Su Fang. There was no resentment at all. Su Fang killed a higher-up and shackled a grand elder. Not only did he fail to intimidate the cultivators of Hao Tsang Tian sect, it was like adding oil to the fire. Those cultivators became even crazier and the situation became even more uncontrollable. Dao Master Han Su and the other higher-ups sneered, waiting to see how Su Fang would deal with this. Su Fang smiled calmly, then said, "I'll give you one last chance. If you surrender now, I'll let you go and not pursue anything further." A moment later, "Surrender! I'm willing to surrender." Finally, some cultivators of Hao Tsang Tian sect were intimidated by the pressure and shouted loudly. Some cultivators directly flew over, including Lu Yu Tian, Dao Xian Tian, and the other top 10 disciples. "Su Fang, we're willing to surrender and acknowledge you as our master." Lu Yu Tian cupped his fists and said. The other disciples also spoke. These people had participated in the great war of immortals and demons with Su Fang. They deeply respected Su Fang and knew Su Fang's character, so they were sincere in surrendering to Su Fang. Then, more than 100,000 cultivators of Hao Tsang Tian sect, most of whom were young disciples who respected Su Fang very much, came to the sky and surrendered to Su Fang. However, more people chose to remain silent or continue to destroy the dojos and plunder the resources and treasures of the dojos. That's good. Su Fang released the power of the world and swept Lu Yu Tian and the other disciples who surrendered, as well as the cultivators who surrendered on the ground, into the sky. Then, he kept them in the true dragon world and handed them over to Xian Yintian. Su Fang's eyes were cold as he looked at Hao Tsang Tian sect. Su Fang is really going to kill all the cultivators of Hao Tsang Tian sect? The overlords of the 8 forces who were watching from afar were all shocked and horrified. Dao Hengtian exclaimed, "Brother Su, don't start a massacre." Holy man Han Su and the other upper echelons of the heavenly mandate Hao Tsang sect also started to panic. Grandmaster Hongxing, who was in Hao Tsang Tian City, was also surprised. He didn't expect Su Fang to solve the problem in such an extreme way. He was about to speak out to persuade Su Fang. // Dao Master Han Su said in a low voice, "Su Fang, there are 1 billion people in Hao Tsang Tian sect. If you kill all of them, you will also fall into the demon Dao and be consigned to eternal damnation. You must think about the consequences." "Kill all of them? There are so many loyal slaves. How can I kill all of them? Wouldn't I be going against myself?" Su Fang snorted inexplicably. The next moment, after Su Fang formed a seal, he opened his mouth and spat out a purple xian guang, which quickly turned into a huge incense burner above his head. This incense burner was mysterious and holy, and its aura swept in all directions. It was a divine artifact. Chapter 18:16. The Eternal Purple Sun Furnace. It was a divine artifact that Su Fang had obtained from the heavenly fragrance Daozu in the heavenly fragrance ancient realm of the immortal demon battlefield. 8. Read. Book 2 3/4 inch. A divine artifact? Su Fang actually has a divine artifact. Many demigods have died at Su Fang's hands, and even some deities have died at his hands. What's so strange about him having a divine artifact? Su Fang is being too arrogant if he wants to make so many cultivators in the heavenly mandate Bright Firmament sect submit with just a divine artifact. Some powerful divine artifacts might be able to destroy the heavenly mandate Bright Firmament sect with a single strike, but it's impossible to make 1 billion cultivators submit. Su Fang's eternal purple sun furnace caused a flurry of discussion among the crowd. Although they were surprised and shocked, no one believed that Su Fang could make so many cultivators in the heavenly mandate Bright Firmament sect submit with just a divine artifact. Su Fang spat out a mouthful of blood after forming a seal. The blood roiled and immediately condensed into a foot-long blood incense stick that was inserted into the incense burner with a whoosh. As the smoke rose, a sacred and extremely powerful aura along with the heavenly mandate bright firmament sex world power enveloped the 81 training grounds. Su Fang's body exuded a sacred aura. At this moment, it was as if he was the supreme god of the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect, controlling the life, death, fate, and will of all cultivators who used the heavenly mandate bright firmament sex world power as their source. Many cultivators of the heavenly mandate bright firmament sect were not affected by Su Fang's world power and divine artifacts divine aura, but the expressions of the other cultivators changed greatly. The cultivators who were madly smashing and looting the training grounds stopped their actions. They looked at Su Fang with fanatical eyes. Some couldn't help but kneel on the ground and worship Su Fang. Those cultivators who refused to submit to Su Fang, those who were full of hatred towards Su Fang, and those who were hesitant, quickly knelt on the ground with fanatical light burning in their eyes. The demon immortals and gremlins of the heavenly mandate, Hao Tsang sect, also knelt down before Su Fang and worshipped him sincerely. At this moment, Su Fang was the supreme god in their hearts. Everything in their lives was given to them by Su Fang and was under Su Fang's control. Even holy man Han Su and the other higher-ups were in a daze. Their bodies trembled and they wanted to worship Su Fang. However, their rationality told them that this was all an illusion and they resisted the desire to submit to him. This was the powerful and unique ability of the eternal purple sun furnace. It could create an illusory world, and the owner of the eternal purple sun furnace was the owner of this world. When the owner of the eternal purple sun furnace was enveloped by the power of the world, he could not help but surrender his faith and will, allowing the owner of the eternal purple sun furnace to control and manipulate him. Even if he wanted them to die, they would be willing. Instead, they felt that it was a supreme honor for them to sacrifice themselves to their God and obtain eternal life. This was the terrifying part of faith. Su Fang, you actually used a divine weapon to change the will and faith of others. You forcefully changed the will of cultivators to pursue illusory faith. Losing one's will and faith means that you are no longer your former self. You are now a puppet controlled by your will. Su Fang, you are so ruthless. Holy man Han Su bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood. His mind and consciousness became clear for a moment and he immediately shouted at Su Fang. Heaven's mandate, Hao Tsang sect used the square heaven great world as a threat and publicly killed my subordinates in front of the entire immortal Tao world. It is only right that I kill all of you. No one can say anything about it. The heavens are virtuous. I do not want to kill too much and gave you a way out. However, you think that I, Su Fang, am weak and can be bullied. You want to take a mile after taking an inch, and try to protect your position. You even banded together to resist me and put pressure on me. The law cannot punish the majority? What a joke. Since they do not want to hand over what they originally had, and are not willing to submit to me, then I will make you believe in me. At the same time, I will grant you everything, even eternal life. Of course, this is nothing but an illusion in your mind. Su Fang spoke in a cold and domineering voice. Lu Yu Tian and the other cultivators of Heaven's mandate, Hao Tsang sect, who had just submitted to Su Fang, as well as Dao Hengtian and the others, all felt a chill run down their back. Then, they rejoiced in their hearts. Cultivators and cultivators wanted nothing more than to surpass the heavens and attain eternal life. If even one's will was not under one's control, then what was the point of reaching the peak of cultivation and attaining true immortality? Since Su Fang treated so many cultivators of Heaven's mandate, Hao Tsang sect like this, he might as well kill them all. The powerful cultivators of the 8 forces who were watching from afar were all frightened. Su Fang possessed unparalleled strength, ruthlessness, and decisiveness. Yet, they still wanted to take a share of the spoils from the destruction of Heaven's mandate, Hao Tsang sect. Wasn't that laughable? Under Su Fang's rebuke, holy man Han Su was speechless. Like the other cultivators, his eyes gradually became blurry. In the end, he used the last bit of rationality he had left and shouted with all his might, "Su Fang, I am willing to submit. On account of the affection I had for you in the past, and on account of the fact that when the first Supreme Elder ordered the evil slayer Holy Man to capture your father and clansmen, I even advised you to let me go this time. You only came to your senses at the very last moment. How pedantic. Fine, I'll let you go this time." Su Fang retracted the divine power of the divine weapon that enveloped Tao Master Han Su and released him from the bottom of the enchantment. Tao Master Han Su was lucky to have escaped death. Despite the lingering fear, he was filled with respect and gratitude towards Su Fang. "Greetings, my lord." The cultivators of Heaven's Mandate Hao Tsang sect shouted one after another and worshipped Su Fang devoutly, offering the faith in their hearts. The power of faith of countless cultivators gathered together, and there were many experts among them. The power of faith was extremely majestic. It gathered into a vast ocean and surged towards Su Fang. In an instant, Su Fang felt that his golden core origin was filled with the Emperor's seal. His meridians and flesh were all surrounded by the Emperor's seal, containing a supreme and dominating aura. Not only that, the power of faith offered by the Heaven's Mandate Hao Tsang sect also contained a trace of soul aura. This meant that these cultivators had offered everything to Su Fang. He was the absolute master of these cultivators. They could offer everything to Su Fang and were under Su Fang's control. Su Fang borrowed the divine power of the eternal purple sun furnace and injected the aura of his inner world into the minds of the Heaven's Mandate Hao Tsang sect cultivators. In this way, these Heaven's Mandate Hao Tsang sect cultivators would become his most loyal followers. "Su Fang, you'll die a horrible death." The first Supreme Elder, who was shackled to the stone pillar by Su Fang, let out a furious and desperate roar. Under Su Fang's intentional control, the first Supreme Elder and Dao Hengtian's master were not covered by the divine power of the divine weapon, so they were not affected. Dao Hengtian's master trembled in fear and his face turned pale. Only now did he realize how laughable he was. If it weren't for Dao Hengtian, he would undoubtedly suffer the same fate as the other Heaven's Mandate Hao Tsang sect cultivators. At this moment, Dao Hengtian's master swore in his heart that he would never have the slightest thought of rebelling against Su Fang as long as he lived. The first Supreme Elder had fallen into complete despair. At this moment, he understood that Su Fang had shackled him to the stone pillar. Not only did Su Fang want to expose him to the world for 1,000,000 years, Su Fang wanted him to personally witness this scene. Such cruel torture was 100 times worse than death. Only now did he understand that sometimes, living was even more painful than death. Su Fang put away the eternal purple sun furnace and the divine power of the world. From this moment on, he was the absolute master of the Heaven's Mandate Hao Tsang sect. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Experts from the 8 forces flew toward Su Fang and cupped their fists at Su Fang. Congratulations to Su Fangda for controlling the Heaven's Mandate Hao Tsang sect and becoming the supreme overlord of the great world. What right does the Heaven's Mandate Hao Tsang sect have to lead the immortal Tao? Su Fangda once saved the immortal Tao world and now has supreme strength and powerful forces. He is fully deserving of the title of leader of the immortal Tao world. Many powerhouses congratulated Su Fang one after another, and words of flattery could be heard. Su Fang now had supreme strength that no one in the great world could match. Now that he firmly controlled the Heaven's Mandate Hao Tsang sect, he could easily sweep through the entire immortal Tao world with a wave of his arm. The experts from the 8 immortal domains were all worried about the fate of their forces, so how could they not flatter Su Fang? This scene. Su Yaotian saw this and his face was flushed red as if he was drunk. His heart was filled with gratification and pride. In the entire great world, from ancient times until now, How many people could give birth to such a son? Don't worry, I have no intention of dominating the great world, and will not expand my forces. Su Fang could see through the thoughts of these experts and said lightly. The experts from the 8 forces immediately breathed a sigh of relief. Su Fang then said majestically, "The world is changing and the apocalypse is sweeping across the great world. Everyone should focus on how to deal with the resurrected experts. I don't want to see any more infighting among the immortal Tao forces." Many experts cupped their fists and said yes. Let's disperse. In 100 years, the grand ceremony for the establishment of the Heavens Crossing sect will be held. Everyone can come and watch the ceremony then. Su Fang waved his hand. The experts from the 8 forces congratulated him in advance and then left the sky above the Heavens Mandate Haotsong sect. Next, Su Fang began to deal with a series of matters. About 10 years later, the square heaven Great World was moved from the Star River to the Heavens Mandate Haotsong sect by Su Fang's supreme divine ability. The material continent of the former Tranquility Emperor residence and Heaven's Mandate Immortal World was merged by Su Fang into the Heaven's Mandate Immortal Land at the center of the Heaven's Mandate Haotsong sect. Su Fang controlled the world origin of the Heaven's Mandate Haotsong sect and had the divine ability of the ethereal myriad laws Tao. It was not difficult for him to merge the world origin of the 2 worlds. Next was the merging of the world boundary and material. The 2 ancient ruins of the constellation of 9 heavens and the clear sky's myriad scroll door, as well as the 5 small worlds, were placed in the sky above the Heaven's Mandate Immortal Land by Su Fang. Next, Su Fang rearranged the 80 dojos of the Heaven's Mandate Haotsong sect into a huge heavenly net formation and surrounded it. The Heaven's Mandate Haotsong sect had completely become history. The new world was still called the Square Heaven Great World. If the Heaven's Mandate Haotsong sect of the past was compared to an elephant, the Square Heaven Great World was not even a small snake. However, this small snake had swallowed the elephant. A new world was revealed to the world. Only Su Fang could do such a big thing and cause a sensation in the entire immortal Tao world. Chapter 1817. Su Fang didn't participate too much in the establishment of the Heaven Crossing sect. Cultivation was not for the sake of power, nor was it for the sake of glory and wealth. Su Fang's purpose in establishing the Heaven Crossing sect wasn't to dominate the outside world, but to create an environment for his father, family Su, and his many friends and subordinates to settle down after he left the outside world. Su Fang handed over the establishment of the sect to Xian Yintian and his other subordinate. He also gave a general opinion on the sect's laws, important positions, resource allocation, and other important matters. Su Fang's main focus was on preparing to break through to the true God realm and go to the end of the world. Cultivation required various spiritual items and resources. The first Supreme Elder's storage magic treasure had long fallen into Su Fang's hands. Su Fang naturally wouldn't let go of the Heaven Crossing sect's treasury. The Heaven Crossing sect was worthy of being called the former number 1 sect of the immortal Tao. There were various treasures, elixirs, spiritual items, immortal stones, origin stones, spirit veins, and other resources stored in the treasury. The inheritance of the Yellow Spring Great Emperor that Su Fang had obtained back then was less than 1/10,000th of it. Su Fang naturally didn't care about ordinary treasures. At this time, only various divine rank spiritual items could enter his eyes. Even the Tai Huang Bell, a supreme Tao item among the 10 great Tao items, was not in Su Fang's eyes. He left it for the sect and passed it down as a Tao item. The Heaven Crossing sect's foundation was incomparably deep. There were various treasures that could only be found in the universe, and the number of ancient treasures was innumerable. Su Fang chose the treasures that would be helpful to his cultivation and kept them for his own use. As for the rest, he left them untouched and stored them as the foundation of the Transcendent Heaven sect. Among these divine rank treasures, there were some that surprised Su Fang. There was a divine wood called the soul-nourishing wood that had the strange effect of nourishing the primordial spirit. However, the soul-nourishing wood was useless to cultivators of the outside world, because this soul-nourishing wood was a spiritual item that was born at the beginning of the world and had already developed spirituality. If cultivators from the great world used this wood to nourish their nascent divinity, the slightest carelessness would cause their nascent divinity to be affected by the wood's nascent divinity, or even be possessed by it. To Luo, the soul-nourishing wood was a supreme treasure for recovering one's primordial spirit. Su Fang handed the soul-nourishing wood to Law and let Law live in the soul-nourishing wood. If that was the case, what about the primordial spirit origins that Luo had lost in the battle with the Blood River Lord in the ancient Fey realm? The strange mammoth beast's spirit pearl had recovered quite a bit, and with the help of the soul-nourishing wood, it could continue to recover and slowly return to its previous peak state. In addition, there were hundreds of other divine tier spirit items that were mainly of the wood type. Among them, there were a few types of herbs that could be used to refine divine pills. It was impossible for such herbs to be born in the Great World, and the alchemists of the Great World were unable to refine them. All the herbs and spiritual items were kept by Su Fang. He was going to cultivate the 6 elemental true body to the limits of the Great World before breaking through to the true God realm. Even if he couldn't use them, he could still bring them to the myriad worlds. Su Fang was pleasantly surprised in the secret realm cave abode of the first Supreme Elder. There was a huge formation in the cave abode that was used to gather the natural spiritual energy of heaven and earth. The magic treasure that was used as the eye of the formation was a fragment of the 10,000 manifestations Dharma fragment. Su Fang had already gathered most of the fragments of the 10,000 manifestations Dharma fragment, and he was only missing 2 smaller fragments. Su Fang thought that the chances of finding them were slim, but he didn't expect to find one in the Tianming Haotsang sect. The ancient immortal demon battlefield was separated from the immortal realms by many layers of natural barriers. However, the Tianming Haotsang sect had a strong foundation and generations of experts from the sect had gone to the ancient immortal demon battlefield to train. It wasn't strange for them to find a fragment of the 10,000 manifestations Dharma fragment. The Tianming Haotsang sect's fragment of the 10,000 manifestations Dharma fragment wasn't big, but what made Su Fang helpless was that he didn't know which generation's expert had used supreme skills and refining techniques to forge it into a magic treasure. Su Fang had no choice but to spend a lot of effort to refine the magic treasure and restore it to its original form. Fortunately, the ancestor of the heavenly mandate, Haotsang sect, was worried that the magic treasure would be damaged and did not alter the magic treasure. Instead, he modified the magic treasure on the basis of the magic treasure so that it could absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and transform it into reality. Otherwise, this magic treasure fragment would have been completely destroyed. As a result, the 10,000 manifestations Dharma fragment was only one fragment away from being able to restore it to its original form. Su Fang was filled with anticipation. If the 10,000 manifestations Dharma fragment was restored to its original form and condensed stars in the Milky Way, how majestic would it be? Su Fang put the fragment of the 10,000 manifestations Dharma fragment together with the other fragments, but he couldn't restore it for the time being. At this time, the 10,000 manifestations Dharma fragment had already displayed a portion of the magic treasure's divine power. In Su Fang's chaotic inner world, the condensed matter grew larger and larger, reaching a size of 10,000 feet. As Su Fang's inner world was like the beginning of the universe, it was filled with an ancient and chaotic aura, so the condensed matter also emitted an ancient aura. Yu Miaomei was now able to speak. For some unknown reason, after being severely injured, Yu Miaomei was no longer as mischievous as before. Instead, she was silent. As the day of the Heaven Crossing sect's establishment ceremony approached, experts from the 8 immortal domains all rushed to the Heaven Crossing world. This time, those who came were all patriarchs of their respective sections. Some old monsters who had lived in seclusion also showed up to participate in the ceremony. "Kid, I've brought you 2 guests." The green feather demon saint brought 2 cultivators to the mortal emperor world. Su Fang spent most of his time in the mortal emperor world, accompanying his father, Su Yaotian. Unless it was an extremely important person, the green feather demon saint would not bring anyone directly to the mortal emperor world. Lord Demon Saints Mystic Moon and Qing Luan. When Su Fang saw the guests, he hurriedly stood up to greet them. The blue-robed cultivator was Demon Saint Mystic Moon, and the green-robed woman was Demon Saint Qing Luan, who had brought Demon Saint Green Feather to the demon world. The 2 Demon Saints Mystic Moon and Qing Luan hurriedly cupped their fists and bowed respectfully. There was no trace of the arrogance and violence of the big goblin. "People of Su Fangda, in fact, Demon Saint Qing Luan and I have come not only to congratulate you, but also to ask for a favor." Demon Saint Mystic Moon appeared to be very anxious. As soon as he sat down, he could not wait to speak. Clearly, the matter he wanted to ask of Su Fang was not ordinary. Su Fang nodded and said, "Demon Saint Mystic Moon, please speak your mind. The demon world is currently facing a catastrophe. People of Su Fangda, please help us on account of our old friendship and green feather." Demon Saint Mystic Moon and Demon Saint Qing Luan stood up at the same time and bowed deeply to Su Fang. "Could it be that you want to revive the big goblin?" Su Fang was shocked. When the blood sun rose into the sky, the ones who were affected the most were not human cultivators, but the demon race. Under the influence of the evil power released by the blood sun, the big goblin's consciousness fell into a frenzy. It could not control itself and attacked everything it saw. Therefore, every time the heaven and earth changed, the demon world suffered the most. Even the immortal Tao world was attacked by the crazy big goblin. In addition, the demon world's demon race had always been in a state of disunity. Whoever was stronger could be the king. There were no sects or clans like the immortal Tao world. Therefore, in terms of individual strength, the big goblin was far stronger than the immortal Tao world cultivators. However, in terms of overall strength, the demon world could not compare to the immortal Tao world or the demon race. Su Fang had thought that it was a revived expert attacking the demon world, or perhaps a revived big goblin of the demon world causing trouble. Who would have thought that things were not as he had imagined? It's the demon race. The demon race has invaded the demon world. Demon Saint Mystic Moon said in a low voice. The demon race has begun to invade the demon world? Su Fang was surprised at first, but after thinking about it for a while, he understood. Because of Su Fang's existence in the immortal Tao world, the demon race did not dare to attack cultivators. It was not hard to understand why they had shifted their target to the demon world. In the great war of immortals and demons, the demon race had suffered great losses. In addition, in the fiend god sanctuary of the ancient battlefield of immortals and demons, Su Fang had devoured the demon race's fortune. Not only were the demons of the fiend god sanctuary affected, but even the demons of the demon world were affected. In these past years, the demon race seemed to have offended the heavenly Tao. All kinds of natural disasters were incessant, and there were also some strange and unimaginable disasters that befell the upper echelons of the demon race. As a result, the demon race's forces were once again severely damaged. At this time, they invaded the demon world, hoping to use the demon world to recover their strength. The demon race, Su Fang smiled faintly. The demon race, which had been a threat to the immortal Tao world cultivators since ancient times, could no longer pose a threat to the human race. Moreover, Su Fang had arranged a backup plan to deal with the demon race. Naturally, he did not take the demon race seriously. Su Fang's attitude caused Demon Sage Xianwei and Demon Sage Qingluan to misunderstand that he had no intention of interfering in the matter between the demon race and the demon race. However, this was normal. 4 cultivators, both the demon race and the demon race were existences that threatened them. At this time, it was more in line with the interests of the immortal Tao to have the demon race and the demon race suffer. Su Fang not interfering was the best choice. Demon sage Xianyue sighed inwardly. Jiuzhen Jiang. In the past, he and demon sage Qingluan had tried their best to urge the demon world to form an alliance with Su Fang. However, in the end, they were opposed by the other demon realm giants, so the matter was left unsettled. Now they were asking Su Fang to help the demon world. How could Su Fang help the human race's powerful enemy? Demon sage Qingluan said, "It's not convenient for Su Fangda to make a move. However, please allow Qingyu to return to the demon world with us. He has just become a demon saint and can be regarded as a powerhouse of the demon race. He can be of some help in the war between the demon race and the demon race." Su Fang said, "The Heaven Crossing sect's founding ceremony is imminent. I indeed have no time to spare. However, with Senior Qingyu's appearance, it should be enough to help the demon race fight against the demon race." Su Fangda must be joking. Even if Qingyu has become a demon saint, he will at most be equivalent to your human race's peak Tao realm cultivators. How can he affect the war between the demon race and the demon race? Demon sage Xianyue bitterly smiled. Su Fang said with a smile, "The two of you probably don't know. Senior Qingyu obtained a great fortune in the ancient immortal demon battlefield. His current strength can threaten the experts of the immortal world. The demon race only has 3 demigod rank powerhouses at most. Senior Qingyu should be able to deal with them." Chapter 1818. The Green Feather Demon Saint had just become a demon saint, but he actually had the strength to threaten a deity. Furthermore, he did not have the strength of an ordinary deity. This was a little too sensational. It was no wonder that the 2 demon saints were so surprised. They still regarded the Green Feather Demon Saint as a junior. They would never have thought that he would have such terrifying strength. In their hearts, the Green Feather Demon Saint was a junior. Although he was extraordinary, he was still from a small world. Even if he could quickly become a demon saint with the help of Su Fang, his strength would not be very strong. However, they had no choice but to believe Su Fang's words. What kind of person was Su Fang now? Even if he was unwilling to help the demon race, no one would dare to force his will. There was no need for him to lie. After confirming the Green Feather Demon Saint's strength, the 2 demon saints of the demon realm looked at him differently. In addition to shock and surprise, there was also a bit of reverence for the strong. At the same time, the 2 demon saints were also amazed by Su Fang's luck. Not only did he grow from a cultivator who ascended from a small world to his current height in a short 10,000 years, but even the people around him were affected by his luck and created such an incredible miracle. Su Fang said, "Senior Green Feather, when you reach the demon realm, you only need to catch the demon realm lord off guard and kill him. The demon race will naturally retreat without a fight. Moreover, I promise that when the demon race changes hands, they will never invade the demon realm again." Other than the lord of the devil realm, there were also 2 other devil race experts from the ancient immortal devil battlefield, the Fiend God Sanctuary. One of the demigod experts was the ancient demon who had attacked Su Fang in the ancient demon realm. The other was the bone demon that Su Fang had subdued. He had also rushed to the demon realm from the Fiend God Sanctuary. As long as the demon realm lord was killed and the ancient demon was eliminated, the demon race would naturally fall under the control of the bone demon called Bone Emperor Yen. Moreover, with the changes in the world, it was more difficult for the deities of the various worlds to descend. As long as the demon race in the divine realm did not notice any clues, they would not send experts to the great world. The demons that had been a constant threat to the world of immortal Tao since the primordial era wouldn't pose much of a threat to the world of immortal Tao for at least the next 10 million years. Second primordial spirit, Vermilion Emperor, Demon Venerable Tongtian, Undying Tortoise, and Monk Shangde, all of you will follow Senior Qingyu to the demon realm. Take it as an experience. Su Fang sent his second primordial spirit to accompany demon Saint Green Feather to the demon realm. When the time came, he would secretly help demon Saint Green Feather. As for the Vermilion Emperor and the other big goblin monks, Su Fang had sent them to the demon realm purely for training. The great monk Shang De had already fused with the demon wheel of exorcism. Now that his strength had soared, what he lacked was experience. With Su Fang's strength, he didn't have much of a chance to make a move. In the battle between the demons and devils, he could be of use. With Su Fang's arrangement, the two demon saints, Xian Yu and Qing Luan, finally felt relieved. They were extremely grateful to Su Fang. Lord Xian Yu once gave me the Xian Yu demon deterrence token, and Lord Qing Luan once helped Senior Qingyu. Now that I'm helping the demon realm, it can be considered as repaying your kindness. You don't have to thank me, Su Fang said with a smile. Xian Yu and Qing Luan were both deeply moved. Su Fang's way of doing things was overbearing and ruthless, but that was only towards his enemies. Towards his friends, he was absolutely grateful. If someone helped him with a drop of water, he would repay it with a gushing spring. The situation in the demon realm was urgent. Without waiting for the ceremony to begin, Xian Yu and Demon Saint Green Luan brought Demon Saint Green Feather and Su Fang's other subordinates to the demon realm. Finally, the day of the establishment of the demon realm had arrived. Experts from all over the world gathered at the Square Heaven Great World. Venerable Tyrant Blood, and the experts of the human forces in the primordial immortal demon battlefield also came to the Square Heaven Great World through the ancient transportation array in the Inferno domain. Ao Tianjinhen and Dai Yi also followed Venerable Tyrant Blood and returned to the constellation of 9 heavens. Naturally, the two of them were deeply moved. What worried Su Fang was that there was still no news of Bai Ling in the ancient demon realm. The demigod of the Wolf Clan, the Big Goblin, had also not appeared. The Square Heaven Great World had undoubtedly become the center of the entire immortal Tao world. After witnessing the transformation of the Square Heaven Great World by Su Fang, the experts from all over the world had a direct understanding of Su Fang's strength. They were all shocked, and their reverence for Su Fang rose spontaneously. In the past, the Heaven's Mandate Bright Firmament sect had specially built a sky-bearing palace in the Bright Firmament City to show off their great achievements in the Great Immortal Demon War. After the destruction of the Heaven's Mandate Bright Firmament sect, the sky-bearing palace was renamed the Sky-bearing Palace. The ceremony for the establishment of the Sky-bearing Palace was held in the square outside the Sky-bearing Palace. The square outside the main hall of the Sky-bearing Palace was a huge space formed by countless array formation experts of the Heaven's Mandate Bright Firmament sect. When the array formation was fully activated, it could accommodate as many as 10 million people. At this time, it was still overcrowded. Su Fang was actually not a person who liked to show off. However, this time, when the Heaven Crossing sect was established, he made a big fuss. He wanted to use this opportunity to show off his strength to the immortal Tao world, so that when he left the immortal Tao world, there would not be any small fries stirring up trouble. When Su Fang appeared on the high platform in the center of the square with his subordinates, he was immediately the center of attention. What shocked the experts was that the 3 black-robed men following behind Su Fang were all experts of the immortal world. Seeing these 3 people following Su Fang like followers, the shock in the hearts of the experts from all over the world could be imagined. Followers of immortals from all over the universe, let alone the current immortal Tao world, had never existed before and would never exist in the future. These 3 immortals were the Liao brothers who had been subdued by Su Fang. At this time, they were pulled out by Su Fang to act as a front. Enjoying the respectful gazes of the crowd, when had these 3 bandits ever received such treatment? Each of them was very proud, puffing out their chests and restraining their fierce, killing intent. Behind the Liao brothers were Xian Yin Tian, Su Yaotian, the Lord of Five Poisons, Li Haojie, and other people close to Su Fang. Venerable Tyrant Blood was also among them. Then there were some powerful big goblin, such as the Scarlet Jiao big goblin subdued in the ancient demon realm. The others were demon sages and demon emperors, peerless big goblins. Such a powerful overall strength made the hearts of the experts from all over the world tremble. When the cultivators of the Heaven Crossing sect witnessed the strength of their sect, their reverence and sense of belonging to Su Fang reached an unprecedented height. At the same time, they were filled with pride and glory for the newly established Heaven Crossing sect. Some people were so excited that they trembled all over. The cultivators of the Square Heaven Great World, including Su Fang's former followers and the newly subdued Heaven-destined Hao Tsang sect, shouted in unison, their voices shaking the heavens. The cultivators who had been subdued by Su Fang with the eternal purple sun furnace all knelt down devoutly and were extremely fanatical. Master is mighty! Heaven Crossing sect is mighty! In Su Fangda's dojos, mystic realms and immortal cities, there was a burst of loud shouts like a tsunami of coral. Such momentum made the faces of Ancestor Grandstar and the demigod Elder Crane, who had come to watch the ceremony, turn slightly pale. With such a powerful force and absolute loyalty to Su Fang could easily sweep through the immortal world. Looking at Su Fang on the high platform, everyone was filled with reverence. At the same time, they sighed in their hearts. Su Fang can now decide the fate of the world with a single word. Since ancient times, how many people have there been in the great world? After a series of complicated ceremonies, it was finally the most important ceremony, the Heaven Prayer Ceremony. If a sect wanted to flourish and not decline, it needed to have a strong providence. When a sect was established, the Heaven Prayer Ceremony was to pray to the Heavenly Tao and obtain the protection of the Heavenly Tao to obtain supreme providence. The Heaven Prayer Ceremony begins. After burning the ancient sacrificial rites to communicate with heaven and earth, with Su Fang as the leader, the 1 billion cultivators of the Heaven Crossing sect knelt to the vault of heaven and released their devout faith, praying for the Heavenly Tao to bestow providence and protect the sect. The Liao brothers also knelt with Su Fang. Su Fang was their master, and even Su Fang was kneeling, so how could they stand? Moreover, although they were deities of the myriad worlds, they were still in awe of the great world's heavenly Tao and the powerful deities that controlled the great world's heavenly Tao. They did not dare to disobey. According to the ancient records, when Ancestor Tianming established the Tianming Hao Tsang sect, providence descended from the heavenly Tao for as long as an incense stick's time. This allowed the Tianming Hao Tsang sect's providence to last for a long time and become the #1 force in the immortal world. I wonder how long the Heaven Crossing sect's providence will last for after its establishment? The Heaven Crossing sect's overall strength is far greater than the Tianming Hao Tsang sect's. Moreover, Su Fang has the supreme strength to kill deities and supreme providence. The providence descending from the heavenly Tao will definitely be several times that of the Tianming Hao Tsang sects. That may not be the case. Heaven and earth have changed, the heavenly Tao has been blinded by evil and death aura, the immortal Tao's providence has withered, and evil spirits have run rampant, wreaking havoc in the great world. At this time, the Heaven Crossing sect will not be able to obtain much providence. Providence was the foundation of a sect, and the experts from the 8 immortal domains were all guessing how much providence the newly established Heaven Crossing sect would obtain. Following the ancient aura of sacrificial rites and the power of faith of the cultivators, the sky soared. Boom, boom, boom. From the sky, from the void, streaks of illusory purple light appeared and surged towards the Heaven Crossing great world. This purple light was the so-called providence, or omen. When a human cultivator stepped onto the path of true cultivation, condensing a Tao heart and forming a golden core, the omen that appeared was the purple river. Before a magic treasure was successfully refined, the great pregnant purple chi would appear. When some spiritual items and spiritual treasures appeared in the world, purple chi would appear. When a cultivation force was born, purple chi would appear, representing the sex providence. The purple chi was very illusory and difficult to see with the naked eye. Only cultivators who had reached the Tao realm would be able to faintly see it with their primordial spirit. The purple chi that appeared in the heavens and earth landed on the stars and matter of the heaven-crossing great world, fusing into the heavens and earth, and at the same time, fusing into the bodies of every heaven-crossing sect cultivator. Unknowingly, all the heaven-crossing sect cultivators felt as if they were being blessed by the heavenly Tao. They also felt as if they were connected to the sect's fate and providence. Chapter 1819. According to the ancient records, when the Heavens Mandate Hao Tsang sect was first established, the heavenly Tao's providence lasted for 30 minutes. Unspecified currency 8, unspecified currency 8, unspecified currency reading, unspecified currency book. Oh, this time, the Heavens Crossing sect only had 30 breaths of time. It was far inferior to the Heavens Mandate Hao Tsang sect. A sect, a cultivation family, and even every cultivator, every forest, every mountain, every blade of grass, and every tree had their own providence. Providence was the key to continuing and prospering. No matter how strong Su Fang was, and no matter how strong the Heavens Crossing sect was as a whole, if the sect had a deep providence, the Heavens Crossing sect would not be able to last long. Seeing that the purple light from the heavens was about to dissipate, the experts of the Heavens Crossing sect all changed their expressions. The eyes of the experts who had come to watch the ceremony flickered, and some even had strange thoughts. Su Fang suddenly got up from the ground. He had the purple chi dharma spirit, and at the same time, the heaven's secret life shrinking technique that could sense fate. The things he could sense were naturally more than others. It was not that the providence from the heavenly Tao was not enough, but because it was affected by the evil power of the 5 evil yang pills in the sky, the providence was being devoured and polluted by the deathly aura. If the providence from the heavenly Tao was 10%, at least 70% would be devoured by the deathly aura, and only 30% would descend on the Heavens Crossing sect. It was not only the Heavens Crossing sect that was affected, but the heavenly Tao's providence of the entire great world was also suppressed by the power of the evil yang pill. Who can take away the providence that belongs to Su Fang? Su Fang's eyes flashed with decisiveness, and then a mysterious purple chi exploded from his body, gathering above his head to form a huge purple chi umbrella. As it spun, it exploded with a supreme power that could devour providence. Destiny's creation, controlling the heavenly secrets. If I want to live, the heavens cannot take it away. Destiny's creation, controlling the heavenly secret. If I want to live, the heavens cannot live without me. At the same time, Su Fang activated the heaven's secret life shrinking technique. His eyes shrouded the heavens, and a supreme aura that could seize the creation of the heavens and earth, borrowing the power of the Heavens Crossing world and the Heavens Net formation, exploded. Chi chi chi. The mysterious purple glow that was about to dissipate suddenly surged towards the square heaven world. It was more than 100 times more intense than before. The purple chi quickly fused into the world origin of the square heaven great world, causing the square heaven great world's fortune to surge. Most of this luck was forcibly taken from the power of Xieyang, and a small portion that did not originally belong to Su Fang was also seized by Su Fang. The entire process only lasted for 3 breaths. However, Su Fang's ability to forcefully devour fate was extremely shocking. It was more than the amount of purple chi that had descended in the previous state that lasted for 2 hours. Previously, it was like a trickle, but the luck that Su Fang forcibly seized was as vast as the ocean. No matter how long the trickle lasted, how could it compare to the turbulence of the ocean? The practitioners of the square heaven world could also feel the amazing change in their own fate. They were all wild with joy and shouted at the same time, "Master is mighty!" Seizing fate from heaven and earth, Su Fang actually has such a terrifying ability? The experts of the other forces were all shocked and aghast. They looked at Su Fang as if they were looking at a supreme god. Something like fate was ethereal and illusory, but it was also real. Who didn't want to be lucky? However, no one had ever heard of a cultivator being able to control fate and fate. Su Fang actually had the ability to devour fate. The experts of the 8 forces had heard of this before, but they had all treated it as a joke, and no one had taken it seriously. Now that they had seen it with their own eyes, they were naturally shocked. The 3 brothers of the Liao family were also shocked and overjoyed, their eyes shining brightly. Although they were bandits, they were very concerned about the ethereal fate. Therefore, when they killed people, they would never kill women, children, or the weak, lest it affect their own fate. Su Fang actually had the supreme ability to seize fate. His own fate was naturally unparalleled. If they followed such a master, they would definitely be stained with a lot of fate. No matter how precious the pills or divine tools were, they could not compare to a trace of fate. At this time, Su Fang became incomparably tall and incomparably unfathomable in the eyes of everyone. This time, Su Fang also paid a great price to use the life-shrinking technique. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, his life aura suddenly withered. This time, he had lost at least half of his lifespan. However, Su Fang felt that it was quite worth it. The rise and fall of the Heaven Crossing sect was related to his father and his foundation in the outside world. No matter how great the price, it was worth it. Su Fang took out the blood crystal condensed from the flesh and blood of the Mizar Divine Lord, and then activated the yellow spring blood sea. The inside of his physical body shattered, and the blood crystal melted into the blood water. How astonishing was the life essence contained in the flesh and blood of the Mizar Divine Lord. Moreover, after being refined by Su Fang with the yellow spring blood sea, it could be easily fused by Su Fang, turning into a flame of life that quickly surged and burned in his body. In just 5 or 6 breaths of time, his appearance had returned to that of a man under 30 years old. Su Fang stopped devouring the blood crystal. The blood crystal emerged from the palm of his hand, but it had shrunk by a size. This kind of devouring had only consumed nearly 1/10 of the blood crystal. From this, one could see just how astonishing the life energy contained in this blood crystal was. Just as the ceremony was about to continue, Su Fang suddenly raised his head and looked at the sky, his eyes revealing shock and horror. Buzz buzz buzz. The Tao runes of destiny and the true runes of the mysterious solution of heaven's divination exploded in his mind. A great sense of crisis that Su Fang had never felt before rapidly surged in his heart. Law suddenly shouted, "You have plundered the fortune of the heavenly Tao, which is tantamount to going against the heavens. The heavenly Tao will send down heavenly punishment, be careful." No matter how confident Su Fang was, he was not so confident that he could remain calm in the face of heavenly punishment. Suddenly, the light in his eyes changed and a chill seeped out from his back, as if he had fallen into an ice cave. So what if it's heavenly punishment? The power of the evil god has blinded the heavenly Tao. Why did the heavenly punishment not appear? I have only plundered the fortune that originally belonged to the Heaven Crossing sect, and the heavenly punishment immediately came down. The gods who wield the power of the heavenly Tao are all trash that bully the weak and fear the strong. Back then, the Yellow Spring Great Emperor, because he established the Yellow Spring Immortal World, went against the heavens and was killed by heavenly punishment. Now I am also facing heavenly punishment, but I will not fall to the same fate as the Great Emperor. The fear in Su Fang's eyes disappeared, revealing an unyielding determination that if the heavens want to suppress me, I will go against the heavens. Back then, the Yellow Spring Great Emperor was only at the peak of the high level of the Tao realm. Su Fang's current strength had far surpassed the Yellow Spring Great Emperor, and he had mastered the peerless divine ability and supreme divine tool that the Yellow Spring Great Emperor did not possess. Therefore, Su Fang was confident that he could win a chance for survival in the face of heavenly punishment. Su Fang rushed to the sky and instantly arrived at the top of the sky. He had heard Yin Qianlu describe the scene of the Yellow Spring immortal world being destroyed by heavenly punishment, so he naturally knew how terrifying heavenly punishment was. Heavenly punishment was the heavenly punishment of a god who wielded the power of the heavenly Tao, not those gods whose strength was restricted. Heavenly punishment was the law, so it was not restricted by the heavenly Tao of the outside world. No matter how strong the defense of the square heaven great world was, it was impossible to resist the power of heavenly punishment. Therefore, Su Fang could not let heavenly punishment descend on the square heaven great world, or it would bring a devastating disaster to the square heaven great world. Boom! A supreme divine might came from the heavens and earth, revealing incomparable coldness and ruthlessness, forming a terrifying shackle pressure that shrouded the world. Everything in the world trembled under this pressure, and the weak cultivators directly knelt on the ground, their souls trembling in boundless fear. Even a demigod expert like the overbearing blood sage's legs went soft, and his will was on the verge of collapse, unable to move his body. Even the three gods, the Liao brothers, trembled under this divine might, their eyes filled with awe and fear. Su Fang, who was high up in the sky, could not move under this divine might of the heavenly Tao, and this divine might was directed at him. The terrifying pressure instantly shattered his aura field, and the flesh fetus divine armor and the Emperor's seal on the surface of his body were also shattered layer by layer. All the strength of the cultivators of the outside world came from the heavenly Tao, and when the experts of the God realm came to the outside world, they were also bound by the heavenly Tao. This was the heavenly punishment, and no one could resist it. The next moment, a sacred golden light descended, and quickly turned into a giant that was thousands of feet tall. This giant was enveloped in golden light, and it carried with it the aura of the heavenly Tao and supreme majesty. Because the golden light on its body was too blinding, it could block all senses, and it was difficult to see the giant's appearance. It was also difficult to determine what kind of existence this giant was, whether it was formed by the heavenly Tao, or a god who wielded the power of the heavenly Tao. The giant made a sound full of surprise, and golden light burst out of its eyes as it swept over Su Fang. Not only did you go against the heavens and plunder the heavenly Tao's fortune, but you also have an aura that this seat is very familiar with, as well as the karma in the depths of the unseen. If this seat remembers correctly, you should be the cultivator who went against the heavenly Tao and tried to establish the undying cycle of reincarnation a long time ago. This giant recognized the aura of the Yellow Springs blood sea on Su Fang at a glance. I didn't expect that cultivator to have left behind a legacy. Just as well, I'll wipe you out as well. Remember this seat's name, Shenjia Tianjun? The giant said majestically. Shenjia Tianjun? Su Fang was shocked and stunned. The giant who had sent down the heavenly punishment, destroyed the Yellow Springs immortal world, and killed the Yellow Springs great emperor was Shenjia Tianjun. Unexpectedly. Really unexpectedly. This time, it was Shenjia Tianjun who had plundered the heavenly Tao's fortune and sent down the heavenly punishment. Could it be that this was the heavenly Tao's reincarnation? I, Su Fang, am the master of my own destiny, and not even the heavenly Tao can suppress me. Su Fang was unyielding and proud, and the world in his body quietly operated. Ant, you want to fight against the heavenly Tao? In the name of the heavenly Tao, I will suppress you. Jia. Chapter 1820. Jia. Shenjia Tianjun let out a thunderous roar and opened his mouth to spit out a golden light. In an instant, an irresistible energy of the heaven Tao blasted over with the force of a sudden clap of thunder. Su Fang felt as insignificant as an ant in the face of this power, about to be crushed to pieces by this heavenly Tao power. My Tao is the heavenly Tao. The heavenly Tao of a large world can forget about crushing me. Su Fang roared in his heart, and his inner world exploded. The heavenly Tao operated, and the heavenly Tao opened up the world, colliding with the heavenly punishment power released by Shinja Tianjun. Boom! How terrifying was the collision of the two heavenly Tao powers! The galaxy shook, the laws collapsed, and the space shattered layer by layer. A huge chasm appeared in the sky, and everything within 1,000,000 miles was reduced to nothingness. This area was completely desolate. Su Fang was swept up by the majestic power, and like a leaf in a gale, he was swept several million miles away. Blood spurted from his mouth, and his aura withered. His inner world was shaken, and cracks appeared in the world's space. However, the terrifying heavenly punishment power that could destroy everything was finally neutralized by him. The heavenly punishment of a large world is so terrifying. This is the heavenly punishment that the deity used with the help of the heavenly Tao. If the real heavenly Tao were to crush me, how terrifying would it be? Su Fang realized the huge gap between himself and the heavenly Tao of a large world, and he could not help but be shocked. At this moment, Law's voice came from within him. Your inner world has only been born not long ago. It is enough for you to be proud that you can resist the heavenly punishment power. Why belittle yourself? When your inner world is fully formed, you will be able to shake or even destroy the heavenly Tao of a large world, let alone this deity who is borrowing the power of the heavenly punishment. That is a matter for a long time. Let's think of a way to deal with Shinja Tianjun. Su Fang responded to Law with a wry smile. He looked at Shinja Tianjun, and his expression became fearless and determined again. Even if the power of the Way of the Heavens was irresistible, Su Fang would never give up. He was not the Yellow Spring's great emperor. Back then, when the great emperor faced Shinja Tianjun, the only thing he could do was to accept in despair. Su Fang, on the other hand, was different. Like the Yellow Spring Emperor, he had an unruly character, an ambition to climb to the peak of cultivation, and a tenacious Tao heart. In addition, he was more powerful than the Yellow Spring Great Emperor, so he had more determination to fight against the heavenly Tao. Su Fang immediately peeled off a young immortal and entered the central spacetime of the primordial chaos sacred realm. He transmitted his thoughts and yang qi to the array formation seal. You're in big trouble this time, aren't you? Shu Wanjin's voice came from a black mirror in the middle of the array. Time was of the essence. Su Fang briefly told Shu Wanjin about the heavenly punishment. Heavenly punishment? Shu Wan's voice trembled. Then, she said coldly, you rose up against the heavens and grew too quickly. Not only will you be hated by cultivators, but even the heavenly Tao will hate you. This is the so-called, the heavens are jealous of geniuses. It's not strange to encounter heavenly punishment. I actually became a genius that the heavens are jealous of. Su Fang smiled bitterly. Senior sister, can you use the primordial chaos sacred realm to resist heavenly punishment? It's not difficult for you and me to use the primordial chaos sacred realm together to resolve this crisis. However, what are you going to do next? Even if you kill this god who wields the power of the heavenly Tao, the God World faction that wields the heavenly Tao will hunt you down. Even if you escape from the great world to the myriad worlds, you won't be able to escape the fate of being suppressed. You can't imagine how terrifyingly powerful the god race that wields the great world's heavenly Tao is. If you offend such a god race, there will be no place for you in the world. Do I have to sit and wait for death? Su Fang said unwillingly. Shu Wanjin said coldly, why? Are you afraid? Afraid? Of course I'm afraid. Su Fang smiled bitterly and gritted his teeth. Although I'm afraid, even if I know that I won't be able to escape the fate of being suppressed, I won't give up on fighting for a chance of survival. Senior sister, help me. Now we can only take one step at a time. Is the god race really undefeatable? Not necessarily. I've resisted once before. This time, I'll resist again with you. Even if we're doomed eternally, so what? Shu Wanjin's cold voice faintly revealed a trace of hatred, as well as an unyielding pride that would rather die than submit to the heavens. Shinja Tianjuan's huge body was also pushed back by the impact of the collision between the two powers of the heavenly Tao. Although he only took 3 steps back, he was truly shaken. Under the heavenly Tao, everyone is an ant. You're just a tiny ant. You can actually resist heavenly punishment. Shinja Tianjuan's dignified and cold voice was filled with surprise and astonishment. The scene in the sky could only be seen by a handful of demigod experts in the square heaven great world, apart from the Liao brothers and the other 2 gods. When Shinja Tianjun released the power of heavenly punishment, even the Liao brothers thought that Su Fang would definitely die. Unexpectedly, Su Fang actually withstood the power of heavenly punishment. Although he seemed to be heavily injured, he wasn't seriously injured. He didn't turn into ashes under the power of heavenly punishment as they had imagined. This wasn't because they had made a mistake in their judgment. In the face of heavenly punishment, everything in the square heaven great world couldn't resist it. This was the rule of the heavenly Tao. Even the gods of the god realm couldn't defy it. Su Fang had cultivated an inner world, which meant that his power was already beyond the square heaven great world. Although it was still very weak compared to the heavenly Tao of the square heaven great world, it was at the same level as the power of the heavenly Tao. Therefore, he could resist the power of heavenly punishment. The scene in the sky shocked the Liao brothers and the demigod experts of the square heaven great world. This is heaven-defying. What is heaven-defying? This is heaven-defying. The minds of the Liao brothers and the demigod experts of the square heaven great world roared like thunder. Whoosh! Shinja Tianjun took a step forward. In a flash, he crossed millions of miles of space and arrived in front of Su Fang. Su Fang was extremely nervous. The vast yang qi in his yang meridian began to circulate as he prepared to inject it into the origin saint realm. However, Shinja Tianjun had no intention of continuing. His lightning-like gaze lingered on Su Fang. Su Fang's inner world was a universe of its own. Shinja Tianjun couldn't see through it. However, when Su Fang activated the power of his inner world, he had an aura that was completely different from the heavenly Tao of the square heaven great world. This aura couldn't escape Shinja Tianjuan's senses. This is the aura of the heavenly Tao that's different from the heavenly Tao of the square heaven great world. An inner world. You've cultivated an inner world. Heavenly Lord Shinja's exclamation turned into a thunderous roar, causing a series of flashes of lightning and thunder in the sky. The more nervous Su Fang became, the more he wanted to inject his yang qi into the divine mirror. At this moment, Shu Wanjin's voice swept out from the divine mirror along with the cold air, "Wait, wait and see." So the cultivator who caused the abnormal operation of the heavenly Tao and the abnormal phenomenon was actually you. I've searched high and low for you. Although Shinja Tianjuan's expression couldn't be seen clearly, the joy in his tone was obvious. Su Fang was surprised. He didn't understand, but he felt that it was amazing. Shinja snorted coldly. Seal Heaven Divine Sect is really incompetent. They used their forces in the square heaven great world to search for you, but to no avail. Instead, I happened to find you. My lord, you asked Seal Heaven Divine Sect to search for me in the square heaven great world? Su Fang was shocked. Previously, when you were advancing, you caused the abnormal operation of the heavenly Tao. Naturally, I noticed it. Those who can cause the abnormal phenomenon of the heavenly Tao are all peerless geniuses. They are also very rare in the heavenly God world. Once they are found, they will be recruited by various forces. I am the Heaven Punisher of the heavenly God race in the heavenly God world. Now that there is such a genius in the square heaven great world, I naturally have to report it to the God race so that they can find you and recruit you. Due to the restrictions of the heavenly Tao, I can only descend to the square heaven great world when a cultivator who violates the heavenly Tao appears. Otherwise, the heavenly Tao will become chaotic and cause an irreversible disaster to the square heaven great world. Therefore, when I found a peerless genius in the square heaven great world, I can only report it to the God race so that they can find him in the square heaven great world. Seal Heaven Divine Sect is a vassal force under the God race. It just so happens that they have a sect in the square heaven great world. The task of finding you naturally falls on the Seal Heaven Divine Sect. Shinja Tianjun spoke slowly, appearing to be very patient. The boulder hanging in Su Fang's heart gently fell to the ground, and the accumulated yang energy was also withdrawn into his yang vein. At the same time, Su Fang suddenly understood. He had repeatedly clashed with Heaven's Mandate Bright Azure Sect, and had reached the point where they could not tolerate each other. He had even completely offended Seal Heaven Divine Sect. If Su Fang was really recruited by the God race, how could Seal Heaven Divine Sect, as a vassal force of the God race, have good days in the future? Su Fang finally understood why the Mizar Divine Lord had personally descended to the square heaven great world. He did not appear at the beginning, but instead sent the Liao brothers, and only acted at the last moment. Shinja Tianjun asked, "Did Seal Heaven Divine Sect not send anyone to the square heaven great world to look for you?" Su Fang could not help but gnash his teeth. Seal Heaven Divine Sect did send a god, but they were not looking for me or recruiting me to the God race. Because I had a conflict with Heaven's Mandate Bright Azure Sect in the square heaven great world, and almost destroyed Heaven's Mandate Bright Azure Sect, so Seal Heaven Divine Sect sent an expert to kill me. Seal Heaven Divine Sect, you dare to defy the God race's decree? Shinja Tianjun was startled, and immediately shouted coldly, "Seal Heaven Divine Sect, you even dare to defy the God race's decree, which is tantamount to betrayal and rebellion. This king will report to the God race and deal with you accordingly." No matter which force it was, they would never allow something that defied the decree to exist. The stronger the force, the stricter the laws, let alone the powerful God race. Seal Heaven Divine Sect was out of luck this time. Shinja Tianjun then asked majestically, "What is your name?" Su Fang was completely relieved and cupped his fists. "My name is Su Fang. This king asks you, are you willing to join the God race that this king belongs to?" Chapter 1821. Join the Divine Race? Su Fang's heart thumped wildly. Less than or equal to 8, less than or equal to 8, less than or equal to read, less than or equal to book, comma? O square root being invited to join a divine race before ascending to the great world was equivalent to finding a great backer in the divine realm. Who knew how many detours he would take in the myriad worlds in the future? A divine race that could wield the power of the heavenly Tao of a great world, and even a force like Seal Heaven Divine Sect was a vassal force of the divine race. Just how powerful was the divine race as a whole? Being able to join such a divine race was tantamount to soaring into the sky. However, Su Fang was not a young boy at this time. Of course, he knew that a big pie would never fall from the sky for no reason. Shinja Tianjun proposed to recruit Su Fang because he had the value of nurturing him and could be used by the divine race in the future. It would be foolish to get complacent and forget everything because of this. In particular, there was one thing that made Su Fang feel very repulsed by Shinja Tianjun. The Netherworld Emperor was killed by Shinja Tianjun, and Su Fang was the successor of the Netherworld Emperor. Naturally, he was wary of Shinja Tianjun and wanted to kill him. If he had enough strength, Su Fang would not hesitate to kill him. Thinking of the Netherworld Emperor, the fire in Su Fang's heart gradually cooled down. Shinja Tianjun then said majestically, "The divine race that this seat belongs to is called Sanskrit. To be able to become a member of the Sanskrit, let alone a great world cultivator like you, even a peerless genius in the myriad worlds is worthy of being proud of. You will know how powerful the Sanskrit is when you enter the myriad worlds in the future. Now, you only need to know its name. There is no need to know anything else. This seat will not say anything more to you. Your talent is extraordinary, so this seat can recommend you to the divine race and nurture you as a seedling. However, you should not be complacent. Being a genius only means that you have the possibility of becoming a powerhouse. It does not mean anything else. It's your honor to be able to join the Sanskrit, and it's also my gift to you. Su Fang showed a grateful expression and cupped his fists. Thank you for your kindness, Sir Divine Lord. I wonder what are the conditions for joining Sanskrit. Shenjia Tianjun said, the Sanskrit is an ancient divine race that has existed since the beginning of the world. There are naturally many restrictions on joining the Sanskrit. First, the God race will reward you with divine blood and completely change your bloodline. Only when you possess the noble bloodline of the Sanskrit will you be qualified to become a member of the Sanskrit. After that, you'll have to change your surname. Sanskrit will give you a new surname. This is a small matter. In order to maintain absolute loyalty to the Sanskrit, they will also use a supreme forbidden technique to slightly alter your consciousness. Change my surname, change my bloodline, and even change my consciousness? In this way, I will no longer be Su Fang. The Sanskrit is nurturing a slave, not a genius. Su Fang sneered in his heart. Seeing that Su Fang was not as grateful as he had imagined, and could not wait to join the Sanskrit, Shenjia Tianjun inexplicably snorted. Shenjia Tianjun said imposingly, I'm not saying all this to ask for your opinion, but to inform you that since the Sanskrit has taken a fancy to you, you have no other choice. This seat only came to the outside world because of your heaven-defying actions. As long as you join the Sanskrit, this seat will forgive your heaven-defying actions. Otherwise, Shenjia Tianjun's threat could not be more obvious. While Su Fang was still hesitating, the voice of Law's primordial spirit came from the cavern of time in his body. You are not qualified to challenge Shenjia Tianjun for now. You can only agree to him for now and think of another way in the future. Shu Wanzhen's voice also came from the origin sacred realm with a chill. You are not qualified to fight against the Sanskrit. The only thing you can do now is to endure for now. Su Fang no longer hesitated and said gratefully, Thank you, Lord Heavenly Lord, for your support. I am willing to join the God race. However, I still have many things to deal with in the outside world. I hope Lord Heavenly Lord will be tolerant for a few more days. A cultivator should give up everything. Since you want to go to the God realm, but you can't cut off the matters of the outside world, how can you concentrate on your cultivation in the future? Shenjia Tianjun's voice was obviously displeased. Then Shenjia Tianjun said, This seat is not an unreasonable person. I will give you two choices. Either you leave the outside world with this seat now, and this seat will send you to the Sanskrit with supreme magical power. The other choice is that you walk the path to the end of heaven and enter the myriad heavens from the transformation supreme Tao. Then, this seat will arrange for the experts of the Sanskrit to come and receive you. Path to the end of heaven? Transformation supreme Tao? Walking from the outside world to the end of heaven is called the path to the end of heaven. The passage connecting the barrier between the outside world and the myriad heavens is the so-called Transformation Supreme Tao. Shenjia Tianjun explained. On the path to the end of heaven, you will be shackled and oppressed by the barrier between the outside world and the God realm. Moreover, there is no immortal chi on the path to the end of heaven, nor the aura of the God realm. It is just a desolate place. If you don't have the strength of a god, you can't reach the end of the outside world. The Transformation Supreme Tao is the only passage between the outside world and the myriad heavens. In fact, it is an energy-tied passage formed by the power of the God realm and the outside world. This is the real test, but it is also a chance to transform from an immortal to a god. Some of the situations on the path to ascension shouldn't be difficult to find in the ancient books of the outside world, so this seat won't tell you in detail. Whether you leave the outside world with this seat now, or you walk the path to the end of heaven by yourself, it is up to you. Su Fang said without hesitation, since there is a chance to transform from an immortal to a god in the transformation Supreme Tao, this one naturally can't miss it. Therefore, I choose to ascend to the god realm by myself. Shinja Tianjun nodded and said, your courage is commendable. It's up to you. However, this seat must remind you that due to the changes in the world, the path to the end of heaven and the transformation Supreme Tao has become 100 times more dangerous than before. With your current strength, the chances of you successfully reaching the end of the world and passing through the transformation Supreme Tao is less than 30%. Su Fang couldn't help but be shocked. With my current strength, the chances of me successfully ascending to the myriad heavens is only 30%? That's right. Are you still going to ascend by yourself? Great opportunities exist in the midst of danger. This one has decided to take the risk and walk the path to ascension. Very well. Shinja Tianjun said no more and looked towards the square heaven great world. Then, Shinja Tianjun said, since you can't cut off the karma of the outside world, in order for you to stay in Sanskrit with peace of mind, and for you to be an extraordinary person in the future, this seat will first form a good relationship with you. This seat will naturally protect your orthodoxy in the outside world. This seat will leave a trace of my consciousness in your sect. Even if this seat is restricted by the rules of the heavenly Tao and can't take action, no one will dare to touch your sect. Su Fang couldn't help but be overjoyed. Going to the divine world, Su Fang was most worried about Su Yaotian, his friends, and his clansmen in the square heaven great world. This was especially true for the Seal Heaven divine path. With the destruction of the heavenly fate Haotsong sect, the forces that the Seal Heaven divine path had painstakingly cultivated in the outside world were all gone. They would definitely take revenge on the square heaven great world. Now, with Shinja Tianjuan's promise, it was equivalent to giving the square heaven great world a protective talisman. Even the Seal Heaven divine path wouldn't dare to covet the square heaven great world. Chi. Shinja Tianjun raised his hand and shot out a golden imprint, aiming at the space between Su Fang's eyebrows. Su Fang subconsciously wanted to dodge, but after thinking about it, he gave up resisting and allowed the golden imprint to land on his forehead. Then, it entered his divine aperture and fused with his young immortal. Shinja Tianjun said, after entering the myriad worlds, I will naturally sense the existence of the imprint and get someone to lead you to Sanskrit. Su Fang naturally knew that not only could Shinja Tianjun use this imprint to sense his existence, it was also a slave imprint. If Su Fang even slightly disobeyed, this golden imprint would mercilessly obliterate Su Fang. I hope you can use your own strength to smoothly reach the end of the great world and enter the myriad worlds from the transformation Supreme Tao stage. As Shinja Tianjun nodded, his huge figure quickly became blurry and finally disappeared into nothingness. The terrifying pressure that shrouded the world also disappeared with Shinja Tianjuan's departure. I didn't expect that I would luckily escape the punishment of the heavenly Tao in such a way. If not for Shinja Tianjun noticing me when I was cultivating, the consequences would be unimaginable. Su Fang's back was already soaked in sweat, and his heart was filled with lingering fear. Facing the punishment of the heavenly Tao, it would be a lie to say that he was not afraid. Law sighed, the so-called ruthlessness of the heavenly Tao is only for those who are weak. For the truly strong, the heavenly Tao can sometimes become full of warmth and even lower its head to the strong. After a pause, Law continued, Law, do you know Sanskrit? I know a little, but not much. As far as I know, Sanskrit is an ancient clan that can be ranked in the top 1,000 in the myriad world. Only ranked in the top 1,000. Do you know how vast the myriad worlds are? Do you know how many divine clans there are in the myriad worlds? A divine clan that can be ranked in the top 1,000 is definitely a giant existence in the divine realm. Do you dare to underestimate Sanskrit? Su Fang, you are really a frog at the bottom of a well. Su Fang smiled embarrassedly. Law was right. Although Su Fang was a supreme existence in the great world at this time, but compared to the myriad worlds, he was a frog at the bottom of a well. Su Fang asked curiously, "What is the Azure Divine Clan's ranking in the myriad worlds?" They were once ranked in the top 100, but now that the Azure Divine Clan's experts have withered, they have long been squeezed out of the top 1,000. / Law's tone was bleak. Clearly, he had touched on his sore spot. Unwilling to continue, his voice did not sound again. Su Fang originally wanted to have a good chat with him and ask about the myriad worlds, but now he could only give up. After ending the conversation with Law, Su Fang separated his consciousness and entered the origin sacred realm. He wanted to inquire about Sanskrit, but Shu Wanjun had already left. Whoosh! Su Fang flew from the sky to the square heaven great world and landed on the high platform of the Yuetian Palace. Swish! Swish! Chapter 1822. In the long history of the large world, how many cultivators could resist the power of heavenly punishment? Su Fang stole the fortune of heaven and earth for the heaven-crossing sect and attracted heavenly punishment. Everyone thought he would die. Who knew? Not only did Su Fang manage to withstand the heavenly punishment from the celestial being who wielded the power of the heavenly Tao, but he was also valued by the celestial race. Before he even reached the myriad worlds, he already had the opportunity to join the celestial race and soar into the sky. Although Su Fang did not intend to accept such an opportunity, what made everyone envious was that the Heaven Crossing sect had received the protection of Shinja Tianjun, who controlled the heavenly Tao of the large world. As long as Su Fang did not fall in the myriad worlds, the Heaven Crossing sect's position in the large world would be as stable as a rock. No one could shake it, not even the divine race from the myriad world. The cultivators of the Heaven Crossing sect were all excited and overjoyed. They had a strong sense of belonging to the Heaven Crossing sect. The Heaven Crossing sect replacing the Heaven Crossing sect is the will of heaven. No one can go against it. The shackled Tianming Haotsong sect's first supreme elder couldn't help but sigh helplessly as he sank into despair. Tao Master Han Su and the other Heaven Crossing sect higher-ups and cultivators who were forced to join the Heaven Crossing sect could not help but sigh and completely dispel their unrealistic fantasies. The Liao brothers also did not expect their master to be so powerful. Apart from the shock in their hearts, their reverence for Su Fang increased by several degrees. The grand opening ceremony of the Heaven Crossing sect came to a successful end. Su Fang announced that the Heaven Crossing world would celebrate in 3 months. Thus, the Heaven Crossing world fell into a carnival. The powerhouses from the 8 different forces all came forward to congratulate him, and their flattery was endless. Su Fang responded with a few words and threw these experts to Xian Yintian, while he left in embarrassment. In the following days, Su Fang began to allocate a portion of his energy to reorganize the newly established Heaven Crossing sect. Before leaving the large world, he had to arrange everything properly. The sect master of the Heaven Crossing sect was naturally Su Fang himself. Even if he ascended to the heavens, he would leave behind a blood clone to oversee the Heaven Crossing sect. However, Su Fang wouldn't personally manage the sect. That power was handed over to Xian Yintian. His status in the Sky Crossing sect was the Grand Elder. Xian Yintian was the grandfather of Fairy Xuanxin. With such an identity, coupled with the fact that he had been in charge of the Square Heaven Great World and the True Dragon Realm for the past few years, he had established supreme prestige. He was the best choice to manage the Heaven Crossing sect, because Xian Yintian had passed the best age for cultivation. Even with the help of various spiritual items, he would never be able to reach the peak of the large world. It was already quite difficult for him to reach the high level of the Tao realm, so Xian Yintian no longer focused on cultivation. Although Xian Yintian wasn't very keen on power, transcending heaven sect was his grandson-in-law's force, so he naturally had to take care of it. Su Fang's subordinates were arranged by Su Fang into the sect. According to strength and merit, they were either big shots like the Grand Elder, or the sect masters or elders of Tao arenas. There were also some subordinates who weren't greedy for power who chose a Tao arena, created a cave residence, and focused on cultivation. Even Su Fang's big goblin and demonic Tao cultivators were properly arranged by Su Fang. In terms of overall strength, Su Fang's subordinates were far inferior to the cultivators of the Heaven's Mandate, Haotsong sect. However, that didn't matter. Most of the cultivators of the Heaven's Mandate, Haotsong sect, had been suppressed by Su Fang with the eternal purple sun furnace, so their loyalty to Su Fang was unparalleled. It was impossible for them to have any disloyalty. Su Fang only needed a thought, and these people would fearlessly step forward. There weren't many other cultivators, so even if they had any disloyalty, they wouldn't be able to do much. When the Heaven Crossing sect was established, Dao Hengtian quietly left, and no one knew where he went. Su Fang's father, Su Yaotian, was the Heaven Crossing sect's highest Grand Elder. His status was incomparable, but he usually didn't intervene in the sect's affairs. As for the family Su clansmen, Su Fang didn't give them any position in the Heaven Crossing sect. Although the family Su clansmen had a status similar to that of an empire's royal family, they didn't have any real power. If they wanted to enter the sect and become a big shot, they would have to rely on their own efforts. At the same time, Su Fang also formulated strict clan rules and various incentive mechanisms to prevent them from becoming like the mortal world's imperial dynasties, where there were some hedonistic royal descendants. Su Fang was also very clear that since ancient times, from a small world to a great world, there had never been a faction or clan that hadn't declined. As for what the family Su would become in the future, Su Fang wouldn't interfere. As long as his father could live a peaceful life, it was fine. As for the 5 small worlds, Su Fang didn't enter the Heaven Crossing sect. He also didn't let Li Ziqing, Su Zhenhua, and the others participate in the sect's management. They were too weak. If they were allowed to participate in the Heaven Crossing sect, not only would it affect their cultivation, but the authority they possessed would also reflect their strength. It wasn't a good thing for them. However, many cultivators from small worlds joined the Heaven Crossing sect to cultivate. This included Lan Haiqing, Xiao Mei'er, Su Erksan, and the others. They entered the Heaven Crossing sect as ordinary disciples. The Lord of 5 Poisons became the sovereign of a Tao rite. He specifically brought his master, the Poison Sovereign, to the Tao rite so that he could focus on cultivating the Grand Tao of Poison. Li Haojie, on the other hand, left the Heaven Crossing sect and returned to the Demon Suppressing sect to cultivate. He was a savior and had obtained the inheritance of the Demon Suppressing sect. His future accomplishments would definitely be extraordinary. Su Fang also took care of the various magic treasures in his hands. Other than the supreme divine artifact of the Origin Saint Realm and the natal magic treasure of the 6 Paths of Mysterious Yellow Pagoda, there were also the Xianming Thunder Archive and the Underworld Reincarnation Sword, as well as the divine artifact of the Eternal Purple Sun Furnace. As for the other magic treasures, Su Fang had been left in the Great World. All the cultivators in the True Dragon Realm were transferred to the Heaven Crossing sect. After being refined by Su Fang, it became the Heaven Crossing sect's trial mystic realm and remained in the sect. Other Dharma treasures, such as the Yellow Spring Great Emperor Bottle, the Heavenly Dipper Creation Cauldron, the Void Dust Cauldron, and other Dharma treasures, including the Big Xian Xingshi, Gambling on Rounds and Sinuses, Soul, Rolling Dumplings, Fat in a Flashy Way. Little after Su Fang had settled all his affairs, the old wolf demon came from the ancient demon's world to the square heaven world, bringing news of Bai Ling. To be precise, it was a jade slip left behind by Bai Ling. Su Fang's heart sank when he did not see Bai Ling in person. He injected some magic power into the jade slip, and Bai Ling's faint aura was released from the jade slip. Then, the jade slip slowly melted and turned into an image of Bai Ling. Bai Ling's voice came from within. "Brother, I've made you worry, haven't I?" "Hee, Sister Bai, I've hit the jackpot again." Su Fang raised his eyebrows, and his heart relaxed a lot. When Sister was promoted to Demon Saint, although there were some risks, Sister had the Chaos Ring. Even if there were some risks, it was scary but not dangerous. Finally, I successfully became a Demon Saint. I never thought that I would actually become a Demon Saint one day. Back then, I was merely a crane demon that was taken as a mount by someone in the small world. "Brother, this is all thanks to you. I won't be thanking you." At this point, Bai Ling seemed very emotional, and her voice trembled slightly. Su Fang recalled his experience in Tianmen province, and his heart was filled with emotions. After becoming a Demon Saint, Sister activated the Chaos Ring again, and a big accident happened. Hearing this, Su Fang suddenly became nervous. After Sister activated the Chaos Ring, the Chaos Ring suddenly changed and released an astonishing distorted divine power that enveloped me. Then, a consciousness descended. The owner of this consciousness was the Lord of Chaos. Su Fang had long known that the Lord of Chaos was still alive. After entering the Great World, he had also inquired about the Lord of Chaos. However, Su Fang had never heard of the Lord of Chaos's deeds, so he guessed that the Lord of Chaos should have come from the myriad worlds, or perhaps he had ascended to the myriad worlds a long time ago. There was another possibility, which was that the Lord of Chaos's Chaos Ring had wiped away all traces of him in the Great World with supreme magic. He didn't expect that after Bai Ling, who had become a Demon Saint, activated the Chaos Ring, the Lord of Chaos's consciousness would descend. It turns out that the Lord of Chaos was an incomparably powerful realm lord of the myriad worlds. Later, he was seriously injured, and he self-destructed and reincarnated in the small world. Then, from the small world, he cultivated again step by step, and finally returned to the myriad worlds. At this time, he had already recovered to his former state. The Lord of Chaos left behind his inheritance in the small world, and the Chaos Ring was a keepsake for him to choose a successor. I reached the height of a Demon Saint and could fully activate the Chaos Ring, reaching the standard to become his disciple. Therefore, he descended this consciousness to bring me to the myriad worlds through the Chaos Ring. Su Fangdao was shocked. The changes in heaven and earth had caused the connection between the Great World and the myriad worlds to be severed. Fairy Xuanxin was brought to the myriad worlds by the Divine Wind Ancient Clan because she had used the profound ice mirror to open the Feng Yi door. The Feng Yi door was a passage that the Divine Wind Ancient Clan had specially created for their clan members to train in the Great World. It was naturally much easier to enter the myriad worlds. // The Blood River Lord was a top expert of the Azura Divine Clan. He could only descend to the Great World through the Azura Divine Clan's supreme divine ability, sending a slaughter clone. It was difficult for him to directly descend to the Great World. This Lord of Chaos was actually able to use the Chaos Ring to sense the aura of the Great World and descend his consciousness into the Great World. Moreover, he was able to use the Chaos Ring to bring Bai Ling from the Great World to the myriad worlds. What kind of terrifying strength did this require? Luo Chu exclaimed, "This Lord of Chaos is definitely a peerless giant in the myriad worlds. His strength far surpasses the Blood River Lord. Extraordinary, simply extraordinary. Brother, it's too late. I'll go first and wait for you in the myriad worlds. I'm the disciple of the Lord of Chaos. This identity is extraordinary. When you reach the myriad worlds, you'll have to rely on me to protect you." After reading it, Su Fang grabbed Bai Ling's phantom into her palm. "Xuanxin has gone to the myriad worlds. Now it's Sister Bai. I have to leave the great world as soon as possible and go to the myriad world. Chapter 1823. After Su Fang settled the matters of the outside world, he began to break through to the deity realm. On one hand, Su Fang separated the young immortals from the heavens mandate Hao Tsang Sek's vast collection of ancient books and records on breaking through to the deity realm. At the same time, Su Fang consulted Luo, Shu Wanjun, and the Liao brothers about their experiences in breaking through to the deity realm. On the other hand, Su Fangda collected all kinds of deity realm spiritual items in preparation for breaking through to the deity realm. With Su Fang's current status, he could naturally take all kinds of spiritual items and treasures as he pleased. It was not only the Heaven Crossing sect. The other factions did not need Su Fang to ask for any peerless spiritual items. When they heard that Su Fang needed them to break through to the deity realm, they immediately took the initiative to give them to him. In the eyes of these factions, using a spiritual item to exchange for a reward from Su Fang was quite worth it. This was the benefit that the overlord status brought to Su Fang. Then, Su Fang went into seclusion in the Time Cavern for more than 100 years. In the Time Cavern for more than 1,000 years, he used all kinds of treasures and spiritual items to raise his true body to the limit of the outside world. As for breaking through to the deity realm, Su Fang also had a different path after a long time of comprehension under Luo and Shu Wanjun's guidance. When ordinary cultivators reached the peak of the Tao realm, they would need to sense the heavenly Tao of the outside world. They would need to faintly connect with the origin laws of heaven and earth in order to attract the legendary deity tribulation. When immortals transformed into deities, they had to go through the primal chaos deity tribulation. The primal chaos deity tribulation contained the origin energy of heaven and earth. This origin energy was the essence of the world before the birth of life. It cleansed the body, divine aperture, and metamorphosed the body and yuan spirit, condensing into a divine body. Immortals also fused with the world's essence energy, turning the immortal's true chi into the power of a deity, using it as a bridge to comprehend the heavenly Tao and cultivate a higher level of energy. From there, they would be able to break free from the shackles of the outside world and become the legendary deity. The so-called demigods were those who did not cultivate enough great Tao to sense the essence of heaven and earth, or whose cultivation base and realm were not high enough. Therefore, the essence contained in the divine tribulation they attracted was not enough to transform them into gods, and they were in an awkward state between immortals and gods. Of course, these demigods still had a chance to become gods. Every time they failed, their chances of succeeding in the future would be lower. Su Fang, on the other hand, embarked on a cultivation path that was completely different from other cultivators. Not only did he cultivate the power of the world, but he also cultivated a world in his body that encompassed the entire universe. Naturally, he didn't need to search for a suitable great Tao law. This was because the entire universe was compatible with him. Su Fang's method of reaching the immortal level was to use his perfected physical body, the 9 changes of the 9 suns, the power of the world, and the great Tao of weapon refinement of Emperor Tianbao as a foundation. He would cultivate his acquired physical body into a Dharma treasure that conformed to the supreme great Tao of the universe. Humans were the most miraculous existence in the world. It wasn't just the internal structure of the human body that was in harmony with the universe. The human body also contained all the information of the universe and endless possibilities. It was also the creation of all the heavenly secrets and endless great Tao. This was why the big goblin tried so hard to cultivate its demon body and eventually transform into a human form. Only then could it better cultivate the great Tao and obtain more power. Su Fang cultivated the 9 changes of the 9 suns and cultivated the heaven and earth Tao palace. He also combined with the world tree and cultivated a world in his body. Although Su Fang's world in his body was in its initial state, it encompassed everything in the universe. Therefore, it could sense and communicate with the entire universe and obtain endless great Tao laws. Su Fang wanted to use his body as a supreme Dharma treasure and use the power of the universe to temper his physical body. He wanted to transform his body into a divine body and obtain the essence of the great Tao from the universe. At the same time, his world in his body would also obtain the opportunity to transform into the universe. On this day, Su Fang transmitted his consciousness. I want to reach the immortal level. Come. It turned out that Su Fang transmitted his consciousness to the human race demigods such as Overbearing Blood Sage, Grand Star Ancestor, Old Crane, and some peak Tao realm experts. Su Fang didn't ask them to come here to protect him. Instead, he asked them to come and watch him. Watching Su Fang's process of breaking through to the true God realm would help them accumulate experience. If they could comprehend a little bit of it, it would be a great harvest for them. Su Fang left the Heaven Crossing sect and flew to the sky above the Milky Way. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. More than a dozen experts followed behind Su Fang. Overbearing Blood Sage and the other demigods, as well as some peak Tao realm experts and some demigod Big Goblin, followed closely behind Su Fang. These experts were all extremely excited as they looked at Su Fang with eyes full of gratitude. When ordinary cultivators broke through, especially at a critical moment like the immortal level, they would purposely avoid outsiders and invite their masters and elders to protect them. They were afraid that they would be disturbed. However, Su Fang took the initiative to invite outsiders to come and watch the process of breaking through to the immortal level. How generous and domineering was this? Su Fang's intention was simple. The more experts there were in the human race, the higher the chances of the immortal Tao world surviving in the increasingly intense catastrophe. Therefore, Su Fang was not stingy in inviting so many experts to come and watch. Of course, these experts were either close to him and were worthy of his trust, or they were his subordinate. Moreover, with Su Fang's current strength that could crush immortals, he was naturally not afraid that others would come and disturb him during the breakthrough. Su Fang activated the ethereal divine ability of the ethereal true record and condensed 100 li large object. Then, he sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes. Gradually, his body, yuan spirit, true qi, yang qi, and everything else were adjusted to the best state. As for the other experts, they stayed far away from Su Fang. With Su Fang's heaven-defying strength, the divine tribulation that he would attract would be extremely shocking. Even those demigods who had broken through to the immortal level before would be afraid. Then, he released his strength, and an invisible aura spread toward the endless sky and the heavens and earth. At this moment, Su Fang's mind became incomparably clear, and he could clearly sense the existence of the heavenly Tao of the outside world. He could even see the movement of the heavenly Tao. There was also a pair of eyes that were like the eyes of the heavenly Tao, watching him without blinking. This kid actually chose to advance in the outside world. It's easy but also difficult. Su Fang heard an ethereal voice coming from the heavenly Tao. It was Shenjia Tianjun who controlled the power of the heavenly Tao. Only Su Fang could hear this voice. No one else could hear it. Then, Su Fang's consciousness, along with the aura that he released, broke free from the shackles of the outside world and reached a mysterious height that Su Fang had never touched before. Su Fang felt as if he had traveled through time and space, arriving at the beginning of the heavens and earth, before all life was born. Su Fang's aura caused some kind of strange resonance. Boom, boom, boom. Huge dark golden heavenly lightning constantly tore through the sky, turning the space and everything in the space into nothingness, causing a huge black hole to appear in the sky. A supreme aura of the outside world descended from the black hole, causing Su Fang to tremble with fear. This is the legendary divine tribulation? It's simply too terrifying. If I don't use my full strength, I won't be able to resist at all. Retreat quickly. This divine tribulation is more than 100 times more terrifying than when I tried to break through to the divine realm. If a demigod expert is affected, even if they don't die, they will be severely injured. Sensing the terrifying aura of the divine tribulation, Ancestor Hongxing's divine light changed instantly. The other demigods also changed their expressions and retreated millions of miles away. Only then did they feel slightly more at ease. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The divine tribulation descended around Su Fong in a flash, destroying the space and shattering all laws. Even energy and physical particles were reduced to their original state under the supreme power of the divine tribulation. The whistling and spiraling divine tribulation was like a huge wheel that crushed everything. No existence in the outside world could resist it. Even the power of the outside world's heavenly Tao could not stop it. Emperor's Seal. Indestructible golden body. At this moment, Su Fong did not hesitate to condense his strongest defense. Boom, boom. Su Fong used the world tree to activate the power of the world, forming an astonishing divine might that collided with the divine tribulation. The divine tribulation was shattered one after another, but endless streams of divine tribulation surged out from the void. It looked like it would not give up until it killed Su Fong. Su Fong's world divine might shattered layer by layer and was compressed to the extreme. A terrifying pressure and shackling force surged toward Su Fong from all directions. Su Fong had no choice but to activate the power of the world in his body to form the yin-yang divine might. Finally, he managed to defend against the waves of divine tribulation. Not only that, but there was also an invisible sound wave of the tribulation power that penetrated Su Fong's defense and attacked Su Fong's divine aperture's defense. This kind of attack on the primordial spirit was much more terrifying than the divine tribulation's attack on the physical body. Fortunately, Su Fong's primordial spirit was very strong. The defense formed by the Tao marks was also very sturdy. The primordial spirit attack of the divine tribulation was not enough to shake his divine aperture's defense. And when the second primordial spirit left, it left the dark valley origin bead in the depths of the divine aperture. At this moment, it was activated by Su Fong's Yang Immortal, creating a large number of primordial spirit seals to stabilize the divine aperture's seal. Otherwise, it would be very dangerous. Fortunately, Su Fong had made sufficient preparations. Not only did he adjust himself to his peak state, he also had the Black Lotus True Body, Dragon Subduing True Body, and Blood Transformation True Body. He also prepared all kinds of spiritual items and pills, including half a blood crystal condensed from a piece of Kai Yang Divine Monarch's flesh and a middle-grade Divine Essence pill, which could quickly replenish his energy. Su Fong was in the middle of the divine tribulation. He could not see his current state, so he did not feel anything.